I think we should start off now
Could be.
with the worst thing that I read this week. I think we just need to dive right in it. It's like a really cold pool. You know, you can't, put a toe in first. You just got to jump in. So let's go straight into what was hands down the worst thing I read this week. And it was from Ezra Klein at Vox. The headline was, "It's time to admit Hillary Clinton is an extraordinarily talented politician." Wow, what a brave stand that Ezra's taking here. This is a really hot take. I don't know if people are ready for it.
Yeah, I know GE might pull funding after that courageous of a stance.
But God, before I start this is just like Ezra Klein. I mean, this is just like, he is such a fucking ass kisser. Listen to just the sound of him going, just brown nosing this entire time. It's so bad. And everything he says is also stupid and full of shit. But okay, let's just go. Ezra writes, "This is the paradox of Hillary Clinton. She has achieved something no one else in the history of the American politics has ever come close to doing, yet is widely considered an inept, flawed candidate. These two things are not unrelated. Twice now, we have thought it should be easy for Clinton to do what no one has ever done before. Twice now, we have dismissed her as a weak candidate and a flawed leader for struggling to break a barrier no one else has ever come near to breaking. America has hosted 56 presidential elections, 33 of them before women received the right of vote. Exactly 0 of those elections featured a female nominee from one of the two major American political parties, until Hillary Clinton." Okay, so he's setting it up once again like that Hillary is an underdog all over again. And again, in 2008, just like now, Hillary Clinton was absolutely the favorite both times. Okay, so Ezra continues. "There is something about Clinton that makes it hard to appreciate the magnitude of her achievement. Or perhaps there is something about us that makes it hard to appreciate the magnitude of her achievement."
When you don't appreciate mother.
"Perhaps in ways we still do not fully appreciate. The reason no one has ever broken the glass ceiling in American politics is because it's really fucking hard to break."
Oh
Ezra,
my God, he's
wow,
gonna swear?
he's breaking out a swear
Excuse
word.
Oh my God. Dark
What?
Ezra.
Too hot for Vox.
Dude, you may see Ezra on In the Weeds or the Ezra Klein show. He's wearing his Windsor nut tie. But dude, you get a little Guinness in that motherfucker. He's busting out the F-bombs.
When he typed that,
he typed
fucking in there,
it
did
out.
he like lean back in his chair and like whip the lanyard around behind his back? And it's just
It's
like,
in
yeah, that's
italics.
right, I said it. I fucking
It's in
said
italics. It's in italics. There are no dashes.
He was actually typing it with one hand because he was holding a mic in the other hand and dropped it. The moment that he finished.
It's really fucking hard to break.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Whether you like Hillary Clinton or hate her, and plenty of Americans hate her, it's time to admit that the reason Clinton was the one to break it is because Clinton is actually really good at politics. She's just good at politics in a way we haven't learned to appreciate. Ugh. This is now the second part of the essay, is called How Presidential Campaigns Favor Male Traits. And what is so good about this article is that, like, Ezra is so hyped. He's so hyped up to explain, to just appreciate the magnitude of a woman breaking the highest glass ceiling of all, that he tries to, and why we still can't appreciate it. And like, he tries to square that circle and, like, demonstrate for everyone his feminist woke bona fides. But what he actually does is say a lot of shit that's actually really sexist. Like, he sort of, and we'll get into that. But Hillary Clinton has her flaws, of course. The email server, the speeches to Goldman Sachs, and just look at her unfavorable numbers. I'll say that in her flaws, Ezra doesn't mention her disastrous foreign policy. He doesn't mention Libya or Iraq or Syria or Honduras or Haiti or any of that. It's just the email server and Goldman Sachs. But what really defines coverage of Clinton is the confusion over how she's gotten so far without the animal charisma typical of politicians at her level. Clinton employed a less masculine strategy to win. She won the Democratic Party by spending years slowly and assiduously building relationships with the entire Democratic Party. She relied on a more traditionally female approach to leadership, creating coalitions, finding common ground, and winning over allies. Today, 208 members of Congress have endorsed Clinton, and only 8 have endorsed Sanders. This work is a grind. It's not big speeches, it doesn't come with wide applause, but it requires an emotional toughness that most human beings can't summon. Okay, this is what's so stupid and actually offensive about what Ezra's writing, is this whole idea about male and female qualities in politics, or what are, a female strategy for, winning at politics. And what he describes is just actual politics. There's nothing female about that. What, if anything, what he's describing is the old, machine style of politics. Like, again, shout out to our good friend Amber Lee Frost, who responded to this with, I think, the best take on this is that the actually traditional female way of doing politics that Hillary Clinton did was marrying a president or leader. Everything else Ezra describes in this article is just ascribing things like being nurturing or being a good listener as natural to women, and embodying, like, this is Hillary Clinton's strategy for doing politics, and not just the fact that, as you said, she's representing the interests of, like, the most powerful constituencies in the Democratic Party.
I like how Ezra, like, in his attempt to understand how regular human beings work, has become, like, an indigo child mommy blogger, getting into that real motherfucking gender science. It's like Nicole Mullen writing about politics.
But, I mean, like, did anyone ever, like, who is he responding to here? Did anyone ever really say that Hillary Clinton isn't a talented politician? Like, she's immensely disliked.
I think that is.
Like,
it's not one of those things where anybody is, like, associated with that point of view specifically, but I think that's just I think it's a commonplace. I think people kind of think she's a bad campaigner. I really do think that he underestimates, when people talk about how she's not a good politician, generally what they mean is that she keeps doing and saying terrible shit.
Yeah, that people
it's
don't
not that
like.
She doesn't have the raw animal charisma of a Mitt Romney or John Kerry.
Yeah, no, I mean, because like, Ezra is entirely focused. He's nominally a wonk, but he's entirely focused on optics and bullshit. So none of these people can address the idea that maybe some people don't like Hillary out of policy differences. There are absolutely people who have, like, a personal hatred of her, but I think a lot of what you saw in the actual election that has taken place so far is a large number of people who reject her policy choices throughout her career. But because, like, admitting that would allow that there are millions of people who are ameliorable to sort of a social democratic coalition, you have to go in this weird fucking gender science category where you go, well, the woman has a blue energy and the man has a red energy. And while the blue energy works for general consensus, the red energy causes the man to go into the third mood of Venus.
And, like, and this whole thing about the magnitude of her achievement is, like, what annoys me is, again, they're, like, as I said at the beginning of this, they're trying to cast her again as, like, the underdog, that this is, like, a miraculous comeback victory against Bernie Sanders, when, I think, again, I think Matt Taibbi said it best this week, where it was like, Hillary Clinton winning the nomination like this would be like, if the Golden State Warriors were pushed to Game 7 and then had to have, like, a fourth quarter comeback against, like, a NCAA team. Like, would they be really feeling great about themselves if they had to do that?
I can't be the only one that thinks if investment bankers, defense contractors, Hollywood studio billionaires, and the entire Democratic Party establishment got together, they could win 55% of the vote against Bernie Sanders. I can't be the only one who thinks that.
Like, there are a lot, there is a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters who I think are, I think a lot of this narrative about, she's stealing or it's rigged or whatever is a little dumb, and, like, the delegate math or whatever. I mean, I guess, like, she's stealing it, but in a way that, like, everyone else steals it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like saying, I don't think the Harlem Globetrotter...
Like all the worst theft in America, it's totally legal and above board.
Exactly. Like, I don't think the Harlem Globetrotters are, like, stealing games against the Washington Generals. But if the Washington Generals, like, took it to, like, a buzzer beater...
He's just spinning the ball! Yeah. Take it!
The Democratic Party and the sort of the whole primary process is like the officials in a Harlem Globetrotters Washington Generals game, basically. But everyone going into that sort of knew it. So it's a little hard to complain about it. But
yeah, a little bit. I mean,
it's still annoying, but
yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, people kind of knew what was going to happen. Like, I mean, I would say after Illinois, we were all of us and pretty much most of the people we knew were like, well, I mean, he's not going to get it now. It'll be interesting to see how far this will go. But I think like a lot of these are addressed at like the 10 people online who are like, no, she's going to get indicted. They're going to indict Obama for endorsing her. But it's easy to address those people.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know, just the ass kissing in that Ezra Klein article. I mean, like, he's just so bowled over by it.
Hey man,
like,
he wants access to the Clinton administration.
I mean,
he's got to fucking sweeten that beef.
This is his fucking career. This is his career strategy. And like, okay, now I found this one, and I want to read just one more clip from Ezra Klein because this is what he wrote about Obama.
You promise it's the last one?
I promise this is the last Ezra Klein one, but get a bucket ready if it's handy next to you. This is what he wrote about Obama in 2008. Look. This is what he wrote about Obama in 2008. Ezra writes, Obama's finest speeches do not excite. They do not inform. They don't really even inspire. They elevate. They enmesh you in a grander moment, as if history has stopped flowing passively by and just for an instant contracted around you, made you aware of its presence and your role in it. He is not the Word made flesh, but the triumph of Word over flesh, over color, over despair.
Oh my God.
The other great leaders I've heard.
Oh my God.
He's not the Word made flesh. I mean,
he is the conquest of Word over. He is the logos.
Oh my God.
It just was almost.
See, that's the kind of shit that all those idiot Republicans who were screaming in Obama's first term about Obots.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about.
This is what version of what they were complaining
Ezra,
about.
you fucking deserve it, man. Have some fucking self-respect. Like, dude, it's just almost over. He says, the other great leaders I've heard guide us toward a better politics, but Obama is, at his best, able to call us back to our highest selves, to a place where America exists as a glittering ideal, and where we, its honored inhabitants, seem capable of achieving it, and thus sharing in its meaning and transcendence. Oh, God.
Wait a minute, are you talking about the guy who spent the last 6 years with his thumb up his ass just like desultorily droning Yemen?
Yeah,
and doing literally nothing else.
Yeah, as I described him earlier this week, Ezra is talking about our, mildly liberal technocratic manager of the U.S. empire, and that he's enmeshing us in a moment grander than ourselves. I mean, give me a fucking break, man. Like I said, like it just have some fucking self-respect, like. But yeah,
you gotta make sure that the comms office picks up your phone calls.
I guess that's how you do it.
What you gotta do, man.
It's
just what it is.
This is fucking debasing.
So it's the first show of 2019, and man, oh man, is the year already so fucking stupid and
Holy
unbearable.
crap. I can't imagine it's going to get any stupider, but we all know it will.
Has anyone tried turning off 2019 and turning it back on again?
Is it just me, or does 2019 feel like the motherfucking season finale of the TV show of 2019? It feels like a little bit like that.
I've been on vacation. We've been on pod vacation, and it's just, already new Congress, new year,
New fit.
I already want to die. It's already made me so pissed off. And the one thing that has already pissed me off, probably more than anything, is everyone getting mad at newly seated Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib for saying of Donald Trump at a bar, we're going to impeach this motherfucker.
Well, I'm
And when
mad
I
at
say
her
people
for
getting
lying
mad at her,
because they're not going to do that. I'm mad at her for lying, honestly. Because come on, you're not going to do it.
I think they will, but that's ancillary.
No, I mean forget impeachment. I don't care. Even like impeach him or don't. But like the fact that when I say getting mad at her, I mean every fucking like shithead, centrist, lib, columnist, and politician who has literally said this helps Donald Trump because when you wrestle with a pig, he'll like it, and you'll both end up dirty.
If you wrestle with a pig, you'll get hard, and everyone will see it. No, I mean, yeah. So the main, the main reaction that I've seen, the annoying one, it's like Jake Tapper.
Ugh.
And Jake Tapout.
Yeah, Jake Tapout,
founder of the MMA and T-shirt dynasty.
Yeah, he used to be really cool.
Yeah.
Jake Tapout, Mitt Romney, was David Axelrod?
Jeff Flake was on that shit. David Axelrod.
Did David Axelrod do it? I feel like
he did.
Okay, yeah, I figured. He always, whenever there's a story like this, he's always like, I think people will like it if I just softly tut about this. And just no one likes it, no one appreciates it, and it's like, why do you keep doing this, man?
Meanwhile, he's doing Chatterbait sessions with fucking Karl Rove. Amazing.
That's a good podcast. I like to listen to the Axe Files podcast where he talks to Skeletor and they come to a consensus about when the deficit mattered. Fucking rocks. I love listening to it with my entire family. But yeah, no, it is. It's been an annoying time because it's like all the people who really it just seems like all on the center left side, it's all the people who got everyone elected in 2006 who then lost about 30 seconds after. Is like, no, you guys don't know how to win. This isn't how to win. And it's like, really? You kind of got us here. And then on the other side, yeah, it's Jeff Flake, who, just his son's Xbox Live name being what it is. And Mitt Romney. Yeah, but it's like, I feel like I'm going to be honest, I could not even keep up with this one because it's just this is just a rerun. I've seen this one so many fucking times since he's been president. This exact same story where it's it's the same exact fucking thing where someone is rude or uncivil, and then the heel character David Axelrod or Jeff Flake is this is bad actually, and then someone posts a formulaic tweet where it's leftist, let's impeach this motherfucker. Liberal, these things are exactly the same. And just nothing ever, it's the exact same thing. New year, same me. I was hoping that we would get new things in this year. I was hoping that Liz Warren would do another 23andMe, or Joe Biden would declare himself the Me Too candidate or something. But no, just this again. We're just getting this again.
Well, I mean, it has to start off this way because it's nobody's doing anything. They're introducing a new cast of characters. They're introducing new characters to the DC Carnival.
Yeah. This is like the first season of a reality TV show, and you see them do one outrageous thing. You're like, oh, all right, that's the one who cusses.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's apparently on The Bachelor, one lady came up to the guy with an Australian accent that she made up just so that he would remember her. It's the same thing. You got to have a hook. She's the sweary congresswoman now. And AOC is the dancing congresswoman.
Yeah,
and
Mitt Romney wears that weird underwear.
Yeah.
Mitt Romney's sort of the bad boy of the new Congress, I think.
Well, okay, yeah. Mitt Romney.
Marsha Blackburn shoots varmints at the dump.
Yeah, Dan Crenshaw just, man, you thought I was fighting kids on Fortnite?
Oh God. Oh yeah, I love them all. Mitt Romney though, he's back, and wouldn't you know it? Basically, I think probably about a month after Ezra Klein did his thing, or as Paul Ryan is leaving, he's like, guess what, everybody? I was wrong to believe Paul Ryan.
Now that this guy can no longer be a source for me in any way, and he's no longer in power,
means nothing to say.
And
at
it means
this point.
Nothing to say that. I'm going to say that he was full of shit.
Their new guy is going to be Dan Crenshaw, though. That's the new.
I was going to say his Mitt Romney thing, where Mitt Romney did that Washington Post article where he was like, Mr. Trump, now you've done some good things, slashing corporate taxes at the expense of literally everything else, appointing a rapist to the Supreme Court, and
child jails.
The child gulag system. But sir, character matters, and your character is bringing the country down. Ezra Klein just said of that, this is a big deal. Romney's taking a big chance here, and he's leading the way for a new kind of. And it just again, there's nothing new. We're doing nothing.
Groundhog's Day, baby.
Ecclesiastes is the greatest book ever written. Ecclesiastes is the truest shit that has ever been written down. This is just.
Actually, you're thinking of Battlestar Galactica.
Well, Battlestar Galactica
will happen again.
That's the literal translation of Ecclesiastes.
No, it came first.
His title.
It came first.
But yeah, no, nothing new under the sun. I do think I will differ, and I will say that Mitt Romney op-ed, it's going to get some burn for a little bit, but I do think the new guy that it's okay for libs to like is going to be Dan Crenshaw, because he went on SNL and he did the epic face with Pete Davidson.
God.
So they also made a point about how you should respect people. He's epic like all the time, but he's also like
fucking Gacy level bodies on him.
Okay, all right. I saw this thing and it made me laugh so hard. There's some woman who writes for like the Daily Wire, one of those bullshit right wing sites, posted a picture of Dan Crenshaw, who's one eye, and two other Republican congressmen who were amputees. And with a caption like, yes.
From war or just like diabetes or something?
From war. They were veterans and just said, yes, I love this so much. And all I can think is like, what? Soldiers getting their comeuppance?
Yeah, she sounds Maoist third worldist there. Glory at the insurgent armies as they wreak havoc on the soldiers of empire. May their blood fill the streets.
Dude, I mean,
and quench the sands.
Props to Ben Shapiro for giving a voice, like, he is interested in debate with the JD Pond. Like he doesn't want any of these running dog, demsock.
Yeah, none of that bullshit.
That's real intellectual diversity. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't want to debate with social fascists. The only left I will entertain is in the Maoist tradition. The fallacy is like the ocean, and the logic is like the fish.
You don't win debates with logic and reason. You win debates through class struggle and class struggle alone.
For the lessons.
No one fucking cares. Remember when Ezra Klein wrote that thing after one of the debates? It's time to admit what a fantastic politician Hillary Clinton is. Because she expertly dissected Trump on stage. And it was like, you know what? From their point of view, it was true. She killed him in those debates. I remember them. She said actual things with like something close to substance. And he was just like, you're going to jail, honey. Bye-bye. But guess what? It didn't matter. So how do you think if 4 years more of everyone's brains being fucking scrambled is going to make them more attentive to what you think matters in debates? It's insane.
Also, debates don't matter.
Well, that's the thing. We've learned that.
They literally don't matter. Like, everyone talks about it, like how bad McCain looked at the McCain-Obama debates. He was already losing. Everyone talks, like, people have already made up their mind. If you want any proof of that, like, look how everyone reacted to how Joe Biden did at the debates, which was just like, it's like he was trying to beat Trump by becoming Trump and just went up there and just, God knows what he was talking about. But for most people watching it, they're like, yeah, I thought he did great. Like, it doesn't really matter. A billion other things matter. And the people who sort of make the narrative of these elections, they think in a very linear way, which is not at all how really 90% of people who vote process information, which is, it's a black box as far as I'm concerned.
It's a cube. They obviously haven't listened to the Alan Moore interview. But what was that thing, Felix? I think you posted it the other day. It was like some stat about how voters who are rank climate change as the issue they're most concerned with overwhelmingly regard Biden as their number one choice.
Yeah, and
president.
I can actually figure that one out for you, because it's like they look at Biden and they're like, that's the guy who's epic, but he's also been half president before, I think. So he's gonna have a plan. And these guys, I like all these guys, but they don't have experience like Joe Biden does. That's literally how they think of it. Like, it's all the things that are like, oh, Biden is he's turning off, demographic X, or he's bad on issue Y. The way that people process this, the way that they see Biden, this is the consequence of years and years and years of people abandoning power as a concept in politics, and abandoning execution of power, especially as a concept in politics, and just sort of focusing on personalities and types of people. And we have another year and a half of it. It is terrific.
Well, I guess I should formally start the show. It's your Chapo, everybody. Matt, Will, and Felix here. I'm Will. There is Matt and Felix.
Hey.
Man, I did one episode as soon as I got back from Europe, and then I went away for another week. I was able to call in to one of the debate Twitch streams, which was wonderful. Great job on that, guys. But let's get back into the swing of things. I'm back in my regular Chapo momentum. So we're starting out by talking about just recapping the two debates, the Democratic debates that went down last week. I wasn't able to catch much of the first one. I was able to call in about the second one. But it seems to be the big takeaway from the second debate is that, Kamala has now established herself as a definite front runner. And like, if any of the elites are hedging on Biden because, as Felix said, his brain is pudding by now. And he just
it's not pudding now. He's literally always been this way. People like if you want to know how much like the political culture of this country and the way that people see things has changed, look at what Biden said in 2008 about how every Dunkin' Donuts is owned by an Indian during the last Democratic primary he was a part of. I mean, it is sort of funny, these people who have never moved from their positions and just sort of like self-replicated by advancing in their careers and putting identical people in place as they move up. Your Glenn Kesslers, your who's the guy who like he was the Clips to Mark fucking the fat fit Halperin's Pusha T. Hellman,
John Hellman, yeah.
Those guys, they're just
Halperin was Malice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 100%. They just sort of self-replicate and they add identical versions to themselves. But then something changed in about 2014 where they could no longer be like quite as tone deaf as they were. And now they act like everything has changed around them. Like Biden is somehow worse than he ever was. And it's like, no, he really isn't. He's the same guy. You just have to notice in this way that you didn't have to before. But I think that people who think everything is different now, that this signals his immediate doom. I mean, he might not get it. It's definitely possible. More and more people are noticing that he's a sort of stupid old man. But the fact that all these people are saying that Biden is collapsing, the exact same people who said that Trump would never get the nomination and then would never win the presidency, just reflexively makes me think he's going to get the Democratic nomination.
I think it's a different thing, though. I don't think that Biden has the devoted fandom that Trump did, because like we were talking about, we talked about this with Virgil. Trump had an issue, and it was one of the most important issue to a huge chunk of Republican primary voters, immigration, that the regular Republicans, because they had read all the white papers that the RNC had sent them and that they were all part of the same Borg, couldn't own. And so he was able to get their loyalty based firstly on the fact they were paying attention to him due to his fame, and secondly because he was talking about one thing that they really wanted to hear. Biden does not have that. He has this nostalgia thing. He has a connection to Obama, which I think every day gets more tenuous as he says things that are alienating to people who liked Obama, but more importantly, as Obama continues to refuse to endorse him. And he doesn't have like an issue. He doesn't have a thing that Democratic voters care about that can carve out some sort of loyalty to him. It's just a vague sense of nostalgia for him. And the fact that he can't clear the field of a lot of these more establishment Democrats, that none of them are scared of him, the fact that he can't get early endorsements from unions and stuff the way that Hillary did, it just makes me feel like that there is no base for Biden other than people who just sort of haven't been paying attention. And the thing is that primary voters, more so than general election voters, eventually start paying attention. And I don't think that necessarily means those people are going to go to Bernie or anything. And I think a lot of the establishment people who saw him waver in the debate just see a future of him doing that over and over again, slowly over time. It's so long yet. There's so much more time. Slowly bleeding support, slowly looking less formidable, slowly looking less like a guy who can beat Trump. And there's Kamala Harris with all the same bona fides, all the same establishment positions. And for a lot of these people who hate Bernie so goddamn much, they don't have the problem of having to support a different old white guy. And I think that's going to be more and more appealing as time goes on.
It will be really funny when all the sort of like unofficial support for Warren just immediately shifts.
Yeah.
And people are like, wait, what the fuck? I thought we were in this together. You just got to laugh.
Oh, yeah. That is
just got to laugh.
We started out by talking about, Harris really stuck the knife into Biden over the segregationists and the busing issue, and good on her for it. He has a huge.
I don't think we should.
I mean, I'm not giving her.
He was talking about his friends. It's hard to find real ass people in what we do. You know that. I know that.
And I mean, the last episode I was on, we were talking about this. I was just like, when Biden said, like, we worked on getting things done, and I was like, well, what did you get done? And apparently, it was ending school busing in northern cities.
I compromised with racist guys to do something racist. What, man?
Dude, awesome.
Biden's probably going to choke it because he has like the greatest history of choking of all time. No one's a bigger choke
past
artist.
performance is any indication.
No one's a bigger choke
His
artist.
1988 race is one of the most hilarious face plants in history.
And this one,
he sucked so bad his brain exploded.
And this would be
now he has new teeth.
Yeah, this would be the most Biden way to do it because there was no advantage in talking about segregation. It's because like the MAGA shitheads or like disaffected Republicans he's signaling to, they have no idea who those people are. It's like, oh wait, you work with John Russell syrup farmer? I don't think you're an adrenochrome harvester anymore. And the 30 people who know who those fucking guys are, like that guy like literally carved the N-word into the door of his office in the Senate. And would be the most Biden way to choke this. It really would, because it's the most unforced of unforced errors.
But yeah, Kamala seemed, again, at least according to the media, came out of this as like a very strong frontrunner, and I think she remains a very formidable, contender here for the nomination. But we sort of started talking out by like I saw a lot of takes being like Kamala's a prosecutor, like she knows how to like turn any argument. In a debate, like Trump is scared, and it's just like I'm sorry, like these people, like no. And this Felix, as you said, like, yeah, oh yeah, she was rigorous. And remember when she totally dismantled Brett Kavanaugh? Yep. That stopped him from getting on the Supreme Court?
American prosecutors are famous for taking on and destroying the most powerful people in America. That's what they're known for.
She sure as hell dell did that with Seth Mnuchin in California when he was
remember
doing flagrant mortgage crimes. Yeah, but it's like, yes, he is literally stealing people's houses through robo-signing and stuff, but he's also producing Suicide Squad, and we really want that to be a good movie, so we can't throw him in jail.
I mean, like, if only we knew what it would be like if Trump spent 2 years head-to-head against a prosecutor. If only we knew.
I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I guess the argument is, one, that she will be able to make a case against Trump during the run-up, during the general. She'll be able to just she'll do like Jim Garrison at the end of the fucking JFK, just pointing out all the crimes Trump is doing. As if we don't know all the crimes he's doing.
That would be if she goes literal Jim Garrison and is like, literally everyone in the cabinet is gay and in the mafia. It might work.
Just oh my god! I'm imagining Wilbur Ross dressed up like a fucking French courtesan and like snorting poppers, twisting Seth Mnuchin's nipples while he's spray painted like Apollo. Now that would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, so they're either talking about that, in which case, who care, as Big Dave would say, or they mean she's going to throw him in jail if she gets to be president. Which one, that wouldn't really be her job. And two, do you really think the establishment Democratic Party as we know it is really ever going to do anything to hold any bad actor accountable once they're in power?
Chuck Schumer would be Herbie Kleinfeld getting the mob boss out of prison in Carlito's way to like secure like a charter school compromise in the Senate.
To be fair, Kleinfeld did kill that guy as soon as he broke him out of prison.
Oh, Schumer would do that by accident.
Okay, March 23rd, 2010. Obama signs health care bill into law.
Yeah.
White House.
Wait, guys, we did it. Do you remember when we could fucking get stuff done in this
Remember when
country?
people were uninsured?
The horrible days when there was people going bankrupt because of health care costs.
White House ceremony seals big political victory, but Republicans aim to tap discontent over issue to rouse voters.
Spoiler alert, they did.
You know those Far Side cartoons where you just have like a whimsical scene and the caption would just be "Trouble Brewing." that's the Larson cartoon is like Obama signing the bill with like the Republican caucus staring over him.
He's signing a bill, but it's in a room full of cows.
Yes,
ominously.
Remember when Biden tapped on his shoulder and said, "This is a big fucking deal.
This is a big fucking deal." Of course, the signature and probably only domestic policy achievement of the Obama era.
But basically destroyed now.
largely cannibalized
A
and
total
desiccated.
failure.
Total failure.
Kind of something that bugs me is, Biden has his own healthcare policy. It's something like a public option, yeah. And, okay, how come nobody holds his feet to the fire and say, all right, so you're like implicitly admitting that Obamacare was not good.
Yeah.
Like, it did not do the thing you all promised it would do, which is end, the state of people being uninsured.
I know we've talked about this before, but this is a fun remembrance. When they debuted the Obamacare website,
That was awesome.
and fucking Ezra Klein and those guys were like nutting in their pants about how cool and fun it was.
Yeah. Oh, you can check out what kind of plan you want.
The website was a fucking car wreck.
Oh,
it's
it's still, it still sucks.
like there's like the Hindenburg,
and
like,
even like
but not fun to watch.
You're just talking about the interface being alienating or whatever. Let's not forget that when they fucking launched it, it didn't work.
Yeah,
at
that's what
all. It collapsed.
I would say that is a top O-bungle. The website
one
not
of
working,
the
'cause it's just like,
absolute top number one O-bungles.
because it seems like something that should be so controllable. It's
You literally had one job.
You run the federal government, make a website.
all the wonks loved it. They were like, this is like a spreadsheet. Delightful.
Do I decide to gamble? Do I decide to pay more money than I afford each month to get covered, or do I gamble on a high-ass deductible plan that I'm, not going to get hit by a car?
Yeah, that's really it. When they're talking about healthcare choice,
Yes.
to individual consumers on the market, or even a lot of people with insurance whose insurer says, okay, you got to pick from these two fucking plans, one with, high monthly premiums, low deductible, one with a high deductible, low monthly premiums.
Yeah, choice is just triage.
No, choice is just gambling. It's straight up just a fucking gamble. Am I unhealthy right now? Am I going to need healthcare? That's it.
But if you're in a socialized system, you don't have to weigh those things. You don't have to weigh them against each other.
Well, right, because obviously the health insurers, they make their nut off fucking us not being able to price risk correctly.
Yes.
I want the bronze plan with the high premiums. I want Garnett for rebounds and points at the half and the tip off. Okay. Yeah, Obamacare. Remember that one? Okay.
Fucking sucks.
April 15th. Iceland volcano halts Europe. This also comes courtesy of the New York Times. And this is an opinion piece by Ezra Klein that's summing up his latest interview with former President Barack Obama. The headline, "The point was to win," Barack Obama writes. And this is like, let's take a foray into the mind of our ex-president Barack Obama and his most odious sycophant, Ezra Klein. So Ezra just interviewed Obama for his new New York Times podcast or something like that. And Obama, he likes to cut loose now in his post-president and sort of tell it how it really is. Like he never did when he was actually president or at any moment during the Trump administration. But he's letting his hair down a little bit now. He's getting a little bit. It's just spitting some real truth and facts here that maybe he felt a little bit hesitant to when he was president of the United States of America, because you can only do so much with that job. Whereas if you have a Netflix deal, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, you can list your top favorite dog breeds by flavor.
just him and Bruce Springsteen have a podcast where he's just like, "Oh man, I got to go with Cocker Spaniel #1, Obama." And he's just like, "Oh,
Well, to be clear, terriers they're a little stringy. Tend not to have a lot of flavor, but any kind of Labrador, it's just absolutely delicious.
I remember I was once over at little Steven's house, and he had a Chihuahua shish kebab that was, but he got a honey miso glaze on those puppies, and they were really something. That sounds great, boss.
Yeah, Tony throwing his phone. Goddamn orange peel schnauzer.
Okay, so this is Ezra Klein about his wonderful chat with Barack Obama. Begins with a quote. He says here, "My entire politics is premised on the fact that we are these tiny organisms in this little speck floating in the middle of space." Barack Obama told me sitting in his office in Washington.
Dude.
Whoa. I mean, that's right.
Shoemking's back.
Yeah, he's back on that gas if he was ever on.
Yeah. Hey, you're a fucking sack of meat who lives on a floating rock in
You're
space.
made of fucking stardust. What does that mean?
Yeah.
That could be any politics.
Yeah.
Could be
If anything, it's
on that.
But if your politics is premised on that, there's some fairly like frightening implications about. Well, I mean, if we're all just atoms in the universe,
nothing actually.
Would you really
matters,
care
and,
if one atom just ceases to exist?
Yeah,
or
it's
not?
like I'm Dr. Manhattan, and I'm going to oversee the destruction of humanity. And it's funny to me.
My entire politics is premised on the fact that our consciousness is but a thin layer of pond scum above an unfathomably deep in blackness that goes on for the abyss, and at the bottom is the great ones, and we're attempting to contact them.
The two possibilities for this is that, like, yeah, Obama he's been chafing again and reading like Chuck Wendig tweets, or that he's like a human being who ascended into being a Lovecraftian great one.
He goes, Ezra writes, I was the one who had introduced the cosmic scale, asking how proof of alien life would change his politics. But Obama, in a philosophical mood, used the question to trace his view of humanity. The differences we have on this planet are real, he said. They're profound, and they cause enormous tragedy as well as joy. But we're just a bunch of humans with doubts and confusion. We do the best we can, and the best thing we can do is treat each other better because it's all we've got. What a bunch of absolute drivel. I mean, this is like the whole the Reinhold Niebuhr thing, where he's just like after the fact justifying that like you can only do so much as president.
I mean,
because you know we're all just human beings and we're inherently flawed and tragic. So oh well, sorry I had to bail out the banks to the tune of like a few $1 billion.
Oops. Fortunately,
this is like just pure fucking pablum of like, oh, we should be nice to each other. Thanks, I hadn't thought about that before.
Oh, and by the way. The fact that Ezra Klein and Obama are using the UFO disclosures to spout this nonsense is the surest indication that this UFO drop is 1,000% an op.
Well, I mean, literally in the sense that the government's doing it, for the purpose of getting us all, looking somewhere else.
Those UFO drops, it's like the conspiracy theory equivalent of like state-sanctioned graffiti walls. They fucking piss me off so much.
Like Bushwick street art. It's like Ben Franklin, but he has cornrows or something.
Yeah. Spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Fuck you.
God, fuck.
The best Bushwick street art is it's Snoopy and Charlie Brown, and Snoopy's lying on top of his dog house, and he's got a syringe in his arm, and the syringe has the Twitter bird on it. And then Charlie is saying, how many likes did we get? That's an actual piece of Bushwick Street art.
That says a lot.
It says many things.
That's amazing.
We're just a bunch of humans with doubts and confusion. But the Greys, they have none of that. They're pure consciousness. They have no doubt, no weakness. How Obama navigated the differences we have on this planet is the primary topic of A Promised Land, the first volume of his presidential memoirs. One passage in particular had stuck in my mind for weeks. Obama is reflecting on the Tea Party uprising and the thrumming undercurrent of racism that powered it. He recalls the din of cable news chatter debating the Tea Party's true nature and the pressure that built for him to render his presidential verdict. He admits that his White House wanted nothing to do with this debate, in part because it had reams of data telling us that white voters, including many who supported me, reacted poorly to lectures about race. He goes on to quote Obama at length, but he goes, it's not worth reading, but he goes here, the poet Robert Frost famously said that a liberal is a man too broad-minded to take his own side in a quarrel. This is not quite true of Obama, but it is nearly true of his authorial style. A Promised Land, which covers the first half of his presidency, is not 700 pages long because it limbs so many events. It's 700 pages long because it presents so many different views of Obama and his motivations. I would say it's 700 pages long because the fucking editor was just cowed into submission by a former president. And they were like, actually, Obama, we don't need 50. You're not now scarred here. We don't need 50 pages about, how you felt about, the rose. I don't know. Like, it's just like we don't need 700 pages of your self-justifications here.
Yeah, Obama. Well, this is Obama's like fifth autobiography. I think he just loves talking about himself.
No, he does. He's a psychotic narcissist. I mean, that's the only people, and these are. I mean, many presidents have been that, obviously, but we are now at the point where it is only going to be those from now on because there's no other reason to run for president because everybody in a position to run knows that you don't actually get to do anything, you don't actually have any power. You can only do things that are bad, and so the only reason to be president is to soothe and validate that titanic fucking narcissism.
He goes here, over and over again, Obama tries to make clear that his assailants have a point, that his perspective is bounded by experience and self-interest. This is true in his personal recollections, which give ample space to Michelle Obama's doubts about his decision to pursue a political career, and it is true in his political remembrances, which always try to inhabit his critics' arguments, or at least their sentiments. So, like, in his own fucking memoir, he has to give voice to, like, what Mitch McConnell thought about him.
Well, yeah, but that's just it, is that he gives voice to the fake right-wing criticisms of his decisions.
But not any of the left-wing criticisms.
No, of course, because those are by definition absurd, because don't they realize that we're little atoms?
Yeah. He goes, but what strikes me about that passage is that you can see Obama's idealism and calculation shimmer into a single point. Oh, God. I mean, just as Ezra just has relaxed his throat for this fucking article, man. He's going all the way in. After suggesting that the motivations of his Tea Party critics were unknowable, he resolves the argument by saying the politics of it were thoroughly knowable. Whatever his own intuitions might tell him, whatever truths the history books might suggest to cry racism, or even to coolly point it out, was to lose votes, and neither his version of hope nor of change would be helped along by defeat. Okay, so like he's going on here to say, like, look, he's saying, like, oh, like what would calling the Tea Party racist have done, like, you know, like actually to ameliorate any of the evils associated with it, right? And if you accept that, like, you know, like he may have a point there about, like, oh, like this would lose me votes, and like if we want to, if politics is about winning, then you have to make compromises, and that, like, you know, me as, like, you know, the first black president, I can't call the Tea Party racist because it's just Americans and, you know, white voters don't like being lectured on race. Okay, like if you grant him that point, then it becomes even more glaring that his presidency did not even half-heartedly attempt to pursue any politics that would benefit, like, universally all Americans, black, white, or otherwise. Like there was no support for labor unions, no support for fucking healthcare,
no support for people facing eviction during the economic crisis. In fact, they just gave banks money to kick them out of their fucking homes so that they could get them to rent them. And if they'd done something about that, maybe the fucking Tea Party wouldn't have mattered so much. Like the idea that the only option on the table was call the Tea Party racist or not, as opposed to not pursue a total recapitalization of Wall Street at the expense of everyone else in the country.
Exactly. And it's just like, you know, like, yes, by itself calling the Tea Party racist, like, wouldn't accomplish anything and may have, you know, hurt him politically or whatever. But like, it's just like I said, it just makes it so fucking jarring because he wasn't doing anything else.
Well, okay, if you think about it, being evicted is just moving one set of atoms.
I mean, if you were to look at the Milky Way galaxy from the Hubble telescope or whatever, could you tell if someone was evicted or not? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's
it would be the least important thing that happened that day.
You know, like the stars that you look up and see in the night sky. I mean, those stars were evicted 1 billion years ago, and you're only getting the light now because they're showing up at our doorstep, being like, "Hey, can you put me up?" He goes, in our national story, Obama is framed as a practitioner of a kind of anti-politics, an almost naively optimistic figure who rose to power downplaying our divisions only to find his administration's legacy swallowed by them. I mean, I don't know what national story Ezra is reading from. I mean, I think, like, naively optimistic is the exact opposite of who Obama is as a person.
No,
I mean, I think he is
total cynical,
cravenly cynical in every regard.
But naive is the only story that guys like fucking Ezra can tell, because it's the only one that exculpates their guy. Like he was their guy. Like Obama was sprung from the head of, like, this entire class of people to represent them, and he can't be a lizard person. He has to have the fault of believing too much in America.
And, you know, it should be
Obama has showed up at he's like the Frank Carlucci of stopping, like, organic social movements and events. Like, all he's done post-presidency is, like, when they were going to do that NBA walkout, he's like, what if you wore a shirt with a message on it instead? And, like, kept making these guys money. Like, making the phone call to consolidate the primary. Probably a billion other things that we won't hear about for years. It's like, that is not what an optimistic man does.
No.
Obama, like, just as someone, like, his outlook on life, like, he makes LBJ look like Patch Adams.
And I mean, like, this dynamic that you're talking about is very much true in Ezra Klein's own career, because you remember Before Obama became president, Ezra, in one of him and Matt Iglesias' perpetual rebrandings, was a healthcare wonk. And his number one issue is the need for single-payer healthcare in the American healthcare system. And then as soon as Obama became president and like the ACA rolled out, what did Ezra Klein do?
Yeah.
He just promoted the ACA as like, he was like, hey,
This is what we
remember when
can
the
get.
website came out and Ezra was talking about how cool and fun
they were
it was?
so they were creaming themselves over that fucking thing. You get to pick your plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was GTA for wonks.
Because you're,
ACA is single payer. You're paying. You get to go to the doctor a single time in a year.
Yeah. He goes, but his book is a reminder that the inverse story has always been just as true. Obama is thoroughly a politician, and because he understood the depth of our divisions, he treated them gingerly, at times fearfully. In a particularly striking moment, Obama reveals that across the country, across the entirety of his presidency, his single largest drop in white support came when he criticized the white police officer who arrested Henry Louis Gates Jr., a black Harvard professor, on the porch of his home. It was support that I'd never completely get back, Obama writes. Support that he'd never completely got back, but then easily won re-election anyway. Like, I mean, what about the support that he lost by not sticking up for his friend?
Yeah. Or the support that drained over the course of his presidency because they didn't fucking do anything.
Like you said,
I mean, it was hope and change, and then they didn't do anything. Doesn't that fucking count in any of these metrics? It all has to come down to the bubbling racism of America, which somehow was tamped down enough to elect him twice.
Yeah.
But then bubbled up because he criticized a cop or the Tea Party showed up dangling fucking tea bags
like
from
you
their
said,
ears.
the fact that like they could have, I mean, like instead of making banks whole again to the tune of what $4 trillion, what you said,
something like that. It's a lot of it's teas. It's not bees.
Yeah, but also with no strings attached.
Yeah.
Not nationalizing a single one of them, not sending a single one of these CEOs to jail. And then the housing market, what did he do? They could have bypassed. They could have just made every homeowner in America whole again.
They were promising to do that
instead of fucking.
And that's the thing. This Tea Party, yes, obviously, there's a lot of racial elements to its motivation, and there was a racial edge to it. And obviously, the people who made it up were if you were able to like do a pH test on them, they'd come back racist. But the thing that started it all was this dipshit on CNBC yelling about bailing out homeowners, which they didn't end up doing. So they got mad about a handout to losers in the market that didn't happen. So those people still ended up getting fucked. Everybody ended up still getting fucked. So the only arguments anybody was having was this piddling bullshit.
He writes here, much in our politics is not what it seems. Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, no, this is back to the Lovecraft shit they're talking about here. Contrary to the... much of what's under our skin is not what it seems. Contrary to the aesthetics of our current political debate, there is a deep optimism in the confrontational politics of the modern left and a quiet pessimism in the caution with which Obama speaks. To ask the question bluntly, who truly believes America to be a racist country? The political voices who state that view clearly because they think Americans can be challenged into change, or the ones who try to avoid even implying the thought because they fear the power of backlash. Again, it is so telling that Ezra has to make the fulcrum of American politics this question, because like it's the only question that the politics that he and Obama advertises can ever address in any way, shape, or form. Everything else, every other factor about like what motivates Americans' political beliefs or behaviors or what alienates them or what makes people so fucking angry and scared and afraid all the time is completely out of the question. It's irrelevant because they know that the politics that they offer cannot do a goddamn thing about any of it.
And so it's becomes the question of what kind of speech is the president going to give at our national pep rally? But even that is delusional because we've gone past the point where a president can reach across a divide or speak to the country as a whole because of the reality that politics has lost its ability to address actual problems. And so these politicians are just mascots for one or another side of a culture war. And that by definition means that you can never speak to the people and raise their whatever the fuck. Like the president is essentially, he's our national therapist, and he's going to get us all to a breakthrough, and then we're all going to hug each other and then act differently, and that's going to fix things, as opposed to the fucking material conditions that are deteriorating beneath everyone's feet and driving everyone fucking crazy.
He goes, when I brought up that passage about the Tea Party, Obama was frank in describing his calculations. One of the ways I would measure it would be, is it more important for me to tell a basic historical truth, let's say about racism in America right now, or is it more important for me to get a bill passed that provides a lot of people with health care that didn't have it before? Okay, well, if it's on that, it probably would have been more important for you to say a basic truth about racism in America, because the ACE was not it, Chief. Sorry about that. It didn't help anyone. It provided people with health care that didn't have it before. Shut the fuck up.
The only good part of the ACA was the Medicare expansion. That was it. Everything else was making people pay money they didn't have for insurance they couldn't use. That's it. And on a website that didn't work.
And it's like, okay, there's like this liberal like demand that like, all politics now should be about speaking truth about America's white supremacist past. It's like, okay, that's well and good, but if you're literally doing nothing else, then it's like completely hollow.
Well, it's not only hollow.
If you're just doing that, it's like a Brewster's Millions thing where you have to spend the most amount of money and get the least amount of people to vote for you.
Yeah,
it's like at the end of Beto's campaign where he was like, the last things were like, I'm against Medicare for all. I'm against like, really looking at anything. I guess I'm like passively for a higher minimum wage, but I'm not really going to talk about that. My main things are I'm coming for the church and guns, and it's like. Oh, you just wanted to get out of this as quickly as possible.
Well, I mean, winning or losing is sort of secondary, though, to the main goal of this, which is to reorient the Democrats as the party of minorities and college-educated white people. That's it. Well, college-educated people broadly, but among white people, the college-educated ones, because they got the money, they live in the strategic areas, and you can be a party under that flag without ever having any genuine pressure to address any of the manifold and manifest pathologies of American political economy, because they don't care about that stuff. The people at the bottom care. The bottom half of that coalition certainly fucking care. But at the top, it is completely dominated by people who want politics to be therapeutic exclusively because they have a vested interest in maintaining the system as it exists.
Yeah, I mean, the problem they run into with this, at least on the presidential level, is that they have no backbench of like younger party members who understand this trade-off. Who do they have after Biden?
Kamala motherfucking Harris. She's going to be president.
Yeah, she's going to... Dude, Biden's approval ratings are at like 99%. Everyone loves it when he goes out there and just, we talked about it last episode. But like Kamala, even with that, is still like her shit's underwater.
Yeah.
The only person she could win against is like a no swag Republican who couldn't win the primary anyway.
Jeb Bush.
The only person, she would win against like if JD Vance was like given the nomination. Like it would have to be someone totally swagless. And even then it's a fight.
JD Vance, by the way, is sitting at 4% in a 6-person race for Ohio Senate right now.
Can I just say, I'm going to be so happy watching him eat shit because his entire marketing push has been like taking these ideas that are legitimately good that people want, like, free preschool and everything, and, free dental or MFA, and just being like, oh, this is to get like normal people hate this. And it's like, oh, is that what you think you are? You think you're fucking normal? Guy who wrote a book about how everyone in his life is backwards and went to work for Peter Thiel. That's what you think you are, normal? No normal person's voting for you, turns out.
Well, also, I mean, he's just doing like the same shit Obama's doing, but from the opposite angle. I mean, he's just coming at the culture war from the right and just being like, I wish we could have free universal pre-K in this country, but unfortunately, critical race theory has taken it over, and that's what we're going to fight now. He goes here. He admitted, Klein continues, he admitted that there was a psychic cost to not always just telling the truth, and fondly referenced the Key and Peele skits about Luther, his anger translator. But he didn't worry over whether he'd been wrong to bite his tongue. One thing that occurred to me as we were talking is that Obama's view of his own political situation echoes the current reality of the Democratic Party. Barack Hussein Obama, a black man running for office during the era of the War on Terror, understood the deck was stacked against him. I mean, like, so badly stacked against him again that he easily won election against John McCain, like the whitest, oldest, grandest Republican of all time, and then Mitt Romney,
who ran and McCain and Palin ran a race campaign. Like they tried to use that as a wedge. It didn't work because the fucking economy was collapsing, and he was promising to do something about it, and then he fucking didn't.
If he was going to win,
He would need the support of people inclined to view him with suspicion. He would need not just to speak to their hopes, but to defuse their fears. To hear Obama tell it, those fears were not just that too much change would come too fast, but that those who fought that change or worried over it would be judged or cast out. People knew I was left on issues like race or gender equality and LGBTQ issues. I mean, like, wasn't he against gay marriage?
He was, in fact, yes.
Yeah, no, he said it was like this. Oh, I think the state should decide. I mean,
they should decide what a man and another man want to do in a limousine together.
But I think the reason I was successful campaigning in downstate Illinois or Iowa or places like that is they never felt as if I was condemning them for not having gotten to the politically correct answer quick enough, or that they were morally suspect because they had grown up with and believed in more traditional values. Democrats, too, face an unforgiving context. Their coalition leads young, urban, and diverse, while America's turnout patterns and electoral geography favor the old, rural, and white. According to 538, Republicans hold a 3.5 point advantage in the Electoral College, a 5-point advantage in the Senate, and a 2-point advantage in the House, even after winning many more votes than Republicans in 2018 and 2020. Democrats are at a 50-50 split in the Senate and have a bare 4-seat majority in the House. Odds are they will lose the House and possibly the Senate in 2022. This is the fundamental asymmetry of American politics right now. To hold power, Democrats need to win voters who are right of center. Republicans do not need to win votes who are left of center. Even worse, Republicans control the election laws and redistricting processes in 23 states, while Democrats control 15. Just going on here, it's because most Democrats I know are panicked over the convergence of their geographic disadvantage and the Republican assault on democracy. In my view, they're right to be. The situation is dire, and if the Republican Party could reorient itself around more competent candidates, it could become catastrophic. Obama has argued that Senate Democrats should abolish the filibuster and pass the legislation necessary to protect American democracy. I wish they'd listened to him on that, but as of now, the Democrats' democracy agenda is imperiled, and so are they. I mean, you said, like, Obama made the phone call to end the Democratic primary. Like, you're telling me he can't make a phone call to Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema? I mean, I understand, like, the pressure points are a little bit different there, but, like, it just seems to me like...
Well, the thing is, it's not Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. They are there to take the heat for the fucking 15 other Democrats who wouldn't want
like
to
Chris
vote for those things
Coons,
either, and now they don't have to say
Chuck
anything.
Schumer.
It's like the idea that it's just these two, because they're the ones who publicly say it's like, really, the rest of the Democratic Senate fucking caucus, all of whom got there by eating baby brains in back rooms, are just champing at the bit to do this shit. And it's these two gomers who are stopping them from doing it. No, they're the two who can be public about it with the least amount of backlash, because Manchin thinks, hey, I'm from West Virginia, none of this matters anyway. There's no way I can be pressured by Democrats. And fucking Kristen Sinema... she wants to fucking like host a reboot of Family Double Dare where like the losing family is executed. It's filmed on like a fucking oil derrick in international waters. Like that's her long-term goal here. So there's no way you could pressure either of them. So that's great. It leaves everybody else off the hook. But even if you were able to figure out a way, like, hey, Joe, we've got the beam on your shitty EpiPen daughter. Then what the fuck is Mark Warner going to do, or Chris Coons, or any of these other Draculas? It's the party. They don't want to do this shit. They have no interest in doing it. Their structure does not allow them to do it. The fable that we have about these fucking personalities standing in the way of it, like the lady in her dumb boots and her anime hair doing the thumbs down. That's just what gets us all riled and gets us to imagine that there is a party here beyond these individuals that actually stands for anything that you imagine could make this country livable in the near future.
I've seen them go out of their way to elect Kristen Sinemas in deep blue states and, you know, Obama's favorite purple states, in swing states my entire life. Like, really, ever since 2006, when they were like, they sort of, you know, winking nod at the coastal donors and major urban center major donors, and we're like, hey, check these out. Check out this new model we came up with. It's a it's a new blue dog Democrat who's like younger and served in the military or something. I've seen them roll these out in places where you could win with someone far less shitty, and it's like, at what point do you not realize that it's like they're doing that for a reason? That's why they made this model.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, but like, you're right. I mean, it's not Manchin or fucking Kristen Stewart. She dumped the Democratic Party like a dog, folks, like a dog.
No, but like the point is like when like people they're just like, oh, like, well, what would you do? Like there's just nothing they can do. Like, oh, like, oh, I guess you just want Obama to pick up the phone. And it's just like, well, okay, if they take seriously this thing about like the Republicans' war on democracy, which I mean, like, I don't know, they probably fucking should, but again, like they don't, because winning elections, it's like it would be perfectly okay with them for the Republicans to basically enshrine themselves as like a permanent rule by minority. They'd be fine with that because then they're off the hook for doing anything. But my point is, like, when people ask, like, oh, look, they just simply can't, get people to vote the right way. And it's just like, look, that's their problem, not mine. And if just ask you're like, oh, tell me what they should do. Tell me what Chuck Schumer should do. And the answer is, I don't know, pretend that there's a popular left-wing candidate who has a chance of winning the presidency, or that, let's say, Chris Coons or Sinema, or whatever. Pretend there's a bill working its way through the Senate to cut off military aid to Israel or Saudi Arabia. then you tell me what they would do in that situation. Tell me what they would do if there was like any actual sincere popular like legislation to pass Medicare for all. They would find a way to fucking get their way.
That is why it's so hard to take like the hyperbolic like insurrectionists and like proto Civil War and all this shit.
Yeah.
All this highly emotional language in the left lib circle. It's not that I don't think that Republicans, aren't trying to keep people from voting and like are fundamentally opposed to like any even partially good American project. No, I agree with that, but it's hard to take the moral invective when your only solution is to vote for Democrats and you seem to be completely blind to what they're doing or not doing.
You can't say that like the Republican Party is so far gone that they fomented a coup that literally tried to execute me. And then in the next breath say, and that's the reason why it's so important we have their support on our infrastructure bill.
Yeah, no, I mean, if this is like we're at the verge of civil war, we were almost murdered, this is life or death. This is life or death of the democracy. Okay, well, end the fucking filibuster because this sounds like your only shot.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you have to do this and like, pass voting protections and do all this shit and maintain the presidency and maintain like a sliver of a majority in the House and Senate, or you'll never have power again. But I mean, I actually think they're just excited to do the past 4 years over again.
Yeah.
They made a lot of money.
I just saw a headline today that said that the Senate parliamentarian has ruled that the Democrats can only have one more instance this year where they pass a budget through reconciliation.
Yeah.
You're only allowed to do it one more time. And Chuck Schumer was like, oh, we were counting on doing it twice. We're foiled again. And it's just like, does anyone buy this shit? Does anyone believe in this shit anymore?
He's the parliamentarian.
The parliamentarian. Like a fucking...
it's not
no one voted
job.
for this person. It's like they have no authority. They can change the rules tomorrow.
There's no... It is an advisory ruling.
And like, so it's like this is why like it's fucking like it just lands like a turd when I have to read people like Ezra write about like this fundamental issue with American politics today is that Democrats need to court right wing votes, but Republicans don't need to do the same to their left wing or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, it is weird that like 18 million more people voted for Democrats than Republicans, and they still don't have a fucking minority. Like they still don't have a majority or whatever. They have a bare 2-seat majority or whatever, or that 3 million more people. It's like all these things you could fix if you wanted. It's right. Like you could fix these problems tomorrow if you really wanted to, but they don't.
It'd have to be a different party though.
Yes.
I mean, they would fundamentally have to be a different party. Like they would have to pursue an agenda that they are constitutionally capable of doing. Like it's not even a choice. There's nobody in this structure who can choose to do anything differently. Since the 70s, the incentives have all pointed in one direction, which is, all right, labor's dead. We now have to reform our party along a suburban corporate axis, and that means finding issues to keep that base happy. So, yeah, we're the anti-white supremacy party, and that's it. Because that's a thing that we can get all these people on the same page for, and which does not implicate any of our actual donors and power brokers. I mean,
and so like as a result, you get these fucking like 800-word dick sucks from Ezra Klein about how like, oh, it was just so hard for Obama to tell the truth. Like as if even him telling the truth would have made a fucking difference anyway.
No.
I'm just gonna skip ahead to the end here. He says,
Toward the end of our conversation, I asked Obama if he still believed you could change people's politics through policy. He replied with the central what if of the last decade. Let's say a Joe Biden, or the person who was running, Hillary Clinton, had immediately succeeded me, and the economy suddenly has 3% unemployment. I think we would have consolidated the sense that, oh, actually these policies Obama put in place worked. He said, the fact that Trump interrupts essentially the continuation of our policies, but still benefits from the economic stability and growth that we had initiated, means people aren't sure. Biden is essentially finishing the job, Obama told me. We'll see if Joe Biden and the Democrats pass H.R. 1 in some version of the American Families and Jobs plans. Then the Obama-Biden approach to politics will have proven itself out. But if they fail to pass H.R. 1 or the American Families and Jobs plans and then lose the House and Senate in 2022, how open will liberals be to hearing about the virtues of more candidates in the Obama lineage? Not very, I suspect. Coalitions are less emotionally satisfying than confrontations. Pluralism doesn't go nearly as viral as division. The politicians who preach the harder path have to be able to deliver. Obama knew this full well. The point was to win, he writes. I wanted to prove to blacks, to whites, to Americans of all colors that we could transcend the old logic, that we could rally a working majority around a progressive agenda, that we could place issues like inequality or lack of educational opportunity at the very center of the national debate and then actually deliver the goods. Well, you failed. You lose, asshole. You didn't do shit.
I just want to give some appreciation to what a rotten writer Ezra is. Like, just a middle finger will get more retweets than a handshake. Thank you, Ezra.
Yeah. He goes here.
It's really good.
Just close it out. He writes here. This is another way in which the reality of our politics defies the aesthetics of our politicians. God, what absolute drivel. Absolute drivel.
Crap.
The true agents of democratic radicalization right now aren't leftists in the House, but senators like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, there you go, Matt, who by indulging Republican obstructionism and preferring the preservation of the filibuster to the protection of democracy are imperiling the entire theory of politics they claim to support. There you go. That's Ezra Klein on Obama. Pretty good.
I honestly, I could really go for some schnauzer. Any of you guys?
But I'd like to talk about now, and I'd like to close out part one of this reading of this episode with a reading series that deals with the sort of the rise of the internet-based news and like the blogosphere, because like that was, that was the other thing. Because like Matt, you mentioned like all of this was happening at a time when internet culture was just beginning to start, and then all of a sudden the news became the most important thing in the world, and because of the internet, we saw the creation of these kind of civilian journalists, as they called themselves, as opposed to be like, and like the ones who got very successful originally with this were all shrieking, bloodthirsty ghouls. These are people for whom Fox News and CNN and NBC were not doing enough to support America's America's role to just kick the shit out of like every other country in the world and kill as many Arabs as possible. And like the opposing pole to that, the Liberal Blogosphere, which also like came up at the same time, people forget guys like Ezra Klein and Matt Yglesias, a lot of these names that are common parlance now. They were not like conservative or reactionaries, but they all were going for that audience. They all, I mean, not that audience. They wanted to get a link from guys like Glenn Reynolds, the Instapundit, and to do that, you had to be psychotically devoted to this clash of civilizations, like fucking just absolute mania and hysteria. Everybody
was being reasonable. That was the minimal standard for being a serious person. That's the thing. It's like look back through it now. It's like, yeah, this was insanity. This was taking a thing that happened and turning it into an existential threat in a way that made no logical sense, making it the pole of all foreign and domestic policy in a way that was just wildly out of proportion. But believing that was the minimum requirement to be considered a serious person. If you did not accept that, all those assumptions, you could just be safely written off. And so for a lot of these guys, no matter what they thought about it, that was the incentive. They had to give homage to this point of view, or else they couldn't be accepted as a rational interlocutor.
And for guys like, Maddie and Ezra, like I'm sure they feel embarrassed about it now, but it worked for them. They're they're fucking millionaires off this. They juiced it harder than anyone else.
If they had said, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't do this shit," they wouldn't have been
funneled through the take shoot to become August Men of Letters, they would have been written off as cranks.
And like, yeah, exactly.
Go hang out with Janine Garofalo.
And yeah, like they wanted to get like linked to by like the big boys, that's how you come up. And by big boys, I mean here, I'm thinking of one guy I mentioned, Instapundit, who like heretofore was this like law professor based out of Tennessee, whose most of his like writing and intellectual output was based on like his idea about how feasible it would be to upload his brain into a computer and live forever, and then also about sex bots as well. But it's just like this. A libertarian techno-futurist who really rose to the moment and became just in one sentence, like hyperlinks would just be like advocating genocide in the Middle East. Yeah. And he became a serious thinker.
That is something that we've completely memory hold. Just how okay it was to say we need to kill 10% of all Muslims in the world to send a message.
Howard Stern said that after 9/11. He said we should nuke one random Arab city.
Yeah. No, this was totally okay for a pretty long time. Until the 2010s, this was where you could be a mainstream person and say this and really not get that many consequences for saying it.
Well, going from a desiccated and decaying monarchy to the desiccated and decaying presidency of Joe Biden and his brain as well is also drooping quite seriously. This is just as we're rounding out today's show. This is a big story on NBC News. Inside a Biden White House adrift. Amid a rolling series of calamities and sinking approval ratings, the president's feeling lately that he just can't catch a break. And angst is rippling through his party.
The thing about all of this is that they told you exactly what was going to happen.
Yep, they called their shot.
They said, we're going to do this. They even had the fucking slogan ready. The real slogan of the 2020 Biden campaign, I don't even remember what bullshit they actually went with formally. It was, come on, man. And that's it. That's just like, give me a break. What do you want from me? That's the entire thing. That was always what it was.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, man, is just like it's the way he says it. It's the intonation and the import behind it. It is the slogan for the times we're living in right now. It's what we all feel.
Like we have pressed the same. We only have one button to press as the Democratic Party. We pressed it. We keep pressing it. We got what we wanted, which is to take power from Republicans after they fuck up too much, which is our only way of taking power. We've done it, but now it's at a terminal point where they fucked up that the near-term stability of the system itself is now coming under stress, and they have nothing else to do. So at this point, you just got to throw your hands up. You just got to shrug, because it's like this was the only possible thing. That other stuff you crazy people wanted to imagine, that was impossible. If this doesn't work, it's not because we fucked up. It's because nothing would have. That's what it boils down to.
So there are four names on the byline for this story, but it begins here. Faced with a worsening political predicament, President Joe Biden is pressing aides for a more compelling message and a sharper strategy, while bristling at how they've tried to stifle the plain-speaking persona that has long been one of his most potent assets. They're stifling him. They're silencing him.
They're deplatforming him. They're deplatforming Brandon.
They're deplatforming Brandon. He's the president
of Brandon. That's what they should have called this article.
Biden is rattled by his sinking approval ratings and is looking to regain voters' confidence that he can provide the sure-handed leadership he promised during the campaign. People close to the president say, "Hey, he also promised a bunch of other shit during the campaign. What's the deal with that?"
He promised all sorts of shit during the campaign. I mean, it's become a thing where people just dig up like his tweets from 2020, where he's like, "Yeah, when I'm president, we're going to ban all assault rifles. I'm going to do it personally."
I just love the idea that we're supposed to take it seriously, that he is personally engaged on any of these issues. Like he's here to like, sir, the inflation is real bad, and he just like snaps back to 1978. It's like, well, what if we promise to amnesty all draft dodgers? Will that help us with the hippies? Well, long hairs will vote for us if we do that. Yes, sir.
Look, he should go ahead and do that. Just amnesty, like now, say amnesty the current draft dodgers, just to confuse people. Do a little.
You mean the freaking Republicans?
When it comes to acid, amnesty, and abortion. I think all three should be safe, legal, but rare. Okay, so crises have piled up in ways that have at times made the Biden White House look flat-footed. Record inflation, high gas prices, a rise in COVID case numbers, and now a Texas school massacre that is one more horrific reminder that he has been unable to get Congress to pass legislation to curb gun violence. Democratic leaders are at a loss about how he can revive his prospects by November, when midterm elections may cost his party control of Congress. I don't know what's required here, said Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina, whose endorsement in the 2020 primaries helped rescue Biden's struggling candidacy. But I do know the poll numbers have been stuck where they are for far too long. Congratulations, asshole.
Yes.
I mean, talk about getting what you wanted. Just fucking the idea that he would just be like, oh, I'm concerned about this now. Motherfucker, like, it's on you. It's like you're concerned, you do something about it. He's your guy.
He intervened to ensure that the party stayed in the hands of people who were operating on the same glad-handing principles that constrained them from doing anything effectively that had run the party into the ground at that point. And you just got what you wanted. Congratulations.
I mean,
once again, they were all hoping that just like, because it's another chance, something is going to change. Like Biden kept saying that hilarious stuff about how the Republicans are all going to have an epiphany.
He's still saying that. He's still saying that about gun control.
Oh, right,
the other day,
they're rational. They're going to
they'll come to their senses after.
Yeah, they'll come to their senses.
Like last week.
And it's like, I honestly think that he's Senate-brained enough and senile enough to believe that. But I don't even think that your average MSNBC psycho believed that. But I think what they had to believe in is that when you get in there in game time conditions, you'll figure something out. You'll drop a play, Statue of Liberty, Hail Mary, West Wing style, and you're gonna get a button hook through the end zone. It's that's the dream. Like, okay, we're gonna play hardball, and then it all fell apart, and there was nothing there because the margins were non-existent with the Republican Party right there in total opposition. Like, those are the game time conditions that make the sort of Clintonian politics that they're all practicing impossible. They cannot do what they used to be able to do.
And Matt, you're totally right that the MSNBC brain people, like when responding to that, like Biden quote where he called Mitch McConnell rational on gun control. Of course they didn't believe it, but they defended it on the grounds like, look, in politics, like, you can't insult your opponents.
Yeah,
he's
like his opposition is up to his feelings.
Yes.
People talk about how Mitch McConnell is like this tactical genius. He literally could be a fucking tortoise. He could be a tortoise who had an office, and all he had to do, like Homer Simpson when he was like working from home, is tap the button that says no instead of yes. Vent explosive gases, no. That's all you have to do, because he has a unified caucus and control of this fucking machinery, and they have a clear objective. Don't let Democrats do anything.
As long as Mitch gets like one or two leaves of iceberg lettuce to gnaw on every day, just swallow that down, he's fine.
You cannot triangulate that.
Nope.
And the entire premise of Clintonian Democratic politics that filled the gap left by the collapse of the old New Deal coalition and labor politics was through these baby splitting triangulative negotiations, and they got to all feel like pragmatic geniuses for figuring out how to make this machine work, and they all got praised as gods by Aaron Sorkin types. And you can make an argument that given the conditions at the time where the electorate was, they were doing what the Democrats had to do to hold power. But the thing is, they're still clinging to those strategies when the conditions have changed and made it impossible for them to work. So no matter how less senile the other Democrats are, who like might not agree with Biden's fantasy of like that Republicans switching around, they're also still captured by just as deep a delusion about the conditions that we live on and about how politics works.
Well, okay, like that's one strategy, but like, what are some new strategies? A West Wing shakeup? Speculation is churning that Biden could shake up the West Wing staff, although that's not about to happen right away. Multiple people close to the White House said that they've heard that Chief of Staff Ron Klein will depart at some point after the midterms. Okay, so at that point, It's not really a shakeup. The midterms are already over. I mean, this thing, like unspoken in all this, is they're like, which
you don't want to change
You don't want to rearrange deck chairs in mid sync.
Wait till it hits the bottom, and then you can. It's all stabilized, and you can rearrange the deck chairs to your heart's content.
Yeah.
We're sending James Cameron down to fix the Democratic Party, and but yeah, like the articles are like, which could see his party lose control of Congress in the midterms. Like, does anyone believe? Like, they all accept it. Like, there's no way.
Everyone knows that.
Everybody knows that there is nothing that could happen that's going to stop the Republicans from
every one of these articles that is now going to come out between now and election day and have already been coming out for months. These are all people setting up their alibis with the media. That's it. Where was I and what was I doing when this thing that I know is going to happen happened? So I can't be held responsible.
All right, I mean, like, this is just some speculation on how, like, who could come in, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, sorry, and any assessment of Biden's performance needs to take into account the epic challenges he faced from the start. They came in with the most daunting set of challenges. They came in with the most daunting set of challenges, arguably, since Franklin D. Roosevelt, only then to be hit by a perfect storm of crises, from Ukraine to inflation to the supply chain to baby formula, said Chris Whipple, the author of the book about White House chiefs of staff, who is now writing a book about the Biden presidency. What's next? Locusts?
Well,
Biden wonders the same thing.
Ukraine is one that's like, I'm sorry, this is another deal where you got what you asked for. The Biden administration's diplomatic position on Ukraine and the conditions they imposed on Zelensky were basically guaranteed to provoke an invasion. So that's one where you got to go, I'm sorry. Once again, you got what you ordered perfectly as you wanted it on the fucking menu. What do you want? Stop complaining. Congratulations, you got your war in Ukraine. It's a propaganda machine. You get to dump all this money into the defense. Now what are you going to do? Just complain about it? Just going to bitch about the thing I got?
No, like, this is their big W, because, they pulled out of Afghanistan, but, like, where does that $3 trillion in defense spend, like, to defense contractors? Oh, well, Ukraine war, just give Javelin missiles to Nazi Al-Qaeda for the next 30 years. That
no problem there. Awesome. Solve that problem. Fix. But that's the thing. All these things are happening separately. There's no connection. It's little hives of bureaucrats pursuing their bureaucratic objectives, which largely are, in one direction, but are totally in conflict. And they have nobody at the top who can coordinate them because there's no disciplinary mechanism to actually impose anything like an agenda on Democrats under any definition of that term.
Under the subhead managerial breakdowns, it says here, amid a rolling
managerial breakdowns.
Amid a rolling series of calamities, Biden's feeling lately is that he just can't catch a break. Biden is frustrated. If it's not one thing, it's another, said a person close to the president. An assumption baked in.
President of the United States of America. At what point do you think that this job is not going to be one damn thing than another?
You don't have to be crazy to work here, but it helps.
Yeah. Remember when Lincoln Chafee ran for president as a Democrat, and he'd been a Republican. He'd been a liberal Republican, the last real liberal Republican in the Senate, but he had some votes that were, pro conservative. And he gets up there, and they go, "Why did you vote for this?" And he goes, "You got to understand, my dad had just died. I just got appointed to a Senate seat. I was sad." Like, Biden should be like, "Look, you got to get it, Matt. My old man, he kicked the bucket in 1962. I can still remember it like it's yesterday."
Like, he could take out the bow thing again. It's like the burn pits killed him, man.
Yeah, man, burn pits.
He should get in touch with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and wish for some better messaging options.
Because it says, an assumption baked into Biden's candidacy was that he would preside over a smoothly running administration by dint of his decades of experience in public office. Yet there are signs of managerial breakdowns that have angered both him and his party. Biden is annoyed that he wasn't alerted sooner about the baby formula shortage. Okay, that's a lie. Biden is mad that he wasn't alerted sooner about baby formula, period. I don't. He was just like, I thought it came from the titties.
They can make that. They can make that with science now. Since when?
He goes, and that he got his first briefing in the past month, even though the crisis had long been in the making. His nominee to the head of the Food and Drug Administration, Dr. Robert Califf, told Congress last week that the agency was sluggish and that it had made suboptimal decisions as parents hunted for formula on empty store shelves. Beyond policy, Biden is unhappy about a pattern that has developed inside the West Wing. He makes a clear, succinct statement only to have aides rush to explain that he actually meant something else. The so-called cleanup campaign, he has told his advisors, undermines him and smothers the authenticity that has fueled his rise. Worse, it feeds a Republican talking point that he's not fully in command.
No.
The issue came to a head when Biden ad-libbed during a speech in Poland that Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power. Within minutes, Biden's aides tried to walk back his comments, saying he hadn't called for Putin's removal and that U.S. policy was unchanged. Biden was furious that his remarks were being seen as unreliable, arguing that he speaks genuinely and reminding his staff that he's the one who's president. I mean, this is a situation where you got to sympathize with the staff here.
Yeah, like the argument here is that Biden should be able to more loosely threaten World War III. That's the key to his fucking popularity. I guess if the nukes start flying, you don't have to worry about, turnout
baby formula,
Waukesha County.
Look, the staff just needs to get out there and say the thing about Biden is you got to take him seriously, not literally.
The next subhead is Democrats unnerved. Biden's angst is ripping through the party. Democratic lawmakers are sparring among themselves and blaming the White House for their dim prospects in November. Representative Stephanie Murphy, a Democrat of Florida, said the White House has failed to put forward what she called an intellectually honest plan to combat inflation. If I sound frustrated, it's because I hear from my constituents, Murphy said. They're struggling. This is not a time for political games. It is not a time for finding boogeymen. And then under Biden's frustrations, it says here, Biden has vented to aides about not getting credit from Americans or the news media for actions he believes have helped the country, particularly on the economy. Unemployment rates have dropped to below 4%, pre-pandemic levels. But polling indicates that Americans believe the economy is in bad shape. Biden grouses that Republicans aren't getting their share of the blame for legislative gridlock in Congress, while he's repeatedly faulted for not getting his agenda passed.
He's the president.
he's the decider.
I mean, he's complaining that the same kind of loose attention that people mostly pay to politics that makes them kind of casually associate the president in power with whatever is happening, and you can say that's unfair. And that's what he's complaining about. But it's that same attitude towards politics that lets a fucking guy like Joe Biden end up president in the first place.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Once again, these are the politics that have allowed you to flim-flam your way into the fucking White House on some fucking fake Irish bullshit. Some fucking glad-handing fucking VFW song and dance. And part of that is that these people think the president's in charge. Well, now you're in charge of that. What are you going to do about it? Quit fucking whining. Again, shut the fuck up.
And like this kind of frustration, Matt, that you're talking about, like I see this from sort of Democrat MSNBC brain people when people like whether it's Texas or like guns or like baby formula, when people are just like angrily just say do something like this is what we elected you for. The stock response I'm seeing a lot of now is, it's a shame America stopped educating kids in civics. Because if everyone took civics classes, they would understand that the president really can't do anything. And if you were educated, you would know that. You would stop complaining. Going on here in the article, it says here, the president has also told aides he doesn't think enough Democrats go on television to defend him. I'm sorry, this is Donald Trump shit. This is Trump brain.
I'm not seeing it on the TV. They're being very unfair to me.
He goes, a particular sore spot is his slumping poll numbers. He's mystified that his approval rating has dropped to a level approaching that of his predecessor, Donald Trump, ranked by historians as one of the worst presidents in history. He's now lower than Trump, and he's really twisted about it, another person close to the White House said. Man.
Look, I feel like in any team sport, when you're paying attention to the stats and the Hall of Fame and everything like that, you're taking your eyes off the game,
Honestly, this is glory boy behavior. This is not lunch pail 9 to 5 president.
And from Joe Biden, who we're told, it's a lunch pail president.
It's supposed to be about the W's. It's supposed to be about the rings, not about individual statistics.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Butler, 45 points in Game 6. Where was he in Game 7? Celtics in the finals now. There you go. This is a diva-style presidency. Wait, sorry, this is really good. A few weeks ago, Biden started employing a midterm election tactic that has been a go-to for sitting presidents: villainize the opposition. He has sought to tether Republicans to Trump's "Make America Great Again" agenda, but Biden has been leaning on yes, Biden has been leaning on White House aides to come up with a message that captures the stark choice voters face. Biden himself thought up the phrase "ultra MAGA," which he and other Democrats have started using in hope of drawing a clear.
How are they letting this guy wither away in the White House? Why aren't they putting him front and center every day with this messaging? Michelob Ultra MAGA.
It's like, wait a second, how do you have to do work to tie the Republicans to Trump's agenda? They literally say everyone who's running for office right now as a Republican is just literally saying, "I'm Ultra MAGA."
And they've just found there's the limit to how much people care about that once you get to a sufficient level of polarization in the electorate. They're going to vote for Republicans no matter what. They no longer care about your notions of like political decency. The people who do is this very small and shrinking cadre. And when the economy and shit is bad, the party in power gets fucking owned for it.
Yeah.
And that means that people are not going to, they don't have the it's only really Democrats who have that. And partisan ones who are never going to vote for Republican anyway, and you can always depend on, and therefore basically meaningless when you're talking about actually like building power. You assume them. Like they have these ideas connecting Trump and to the notion of evil and horror. The Republicans imagining like representing his return. That's just Democrats. And you can't win, certainly can't win fucking midterms with that.
It says the phrase tested well in polling reviewed by the White House. I'm sorry, this is like Death of Stalin shit.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, yes, sir, we've tested the Ultra MAGA. Like the people very much like this idea.
The people are weeping about Ultra MAGA. They're begging for your help to save them from Ultra MAGA.
And it says
Biden should just do like Trump stories where he's like, I was talking to a guy the other day, a real Mac, and I said, he's Republican. They're Ultra MAGA. And he, strong guy, biggest guy I've ever seen, started weeping in front of me and said, "Sir Joe, please protect us from the Ultra MAGA."
We're gonna get Gamera. He's gonna defeat the Ultra MAGA.
He is friend to all children. Gamera will bring many baby formulas.
No, I think the way that the Biden administration ends with like the way he's just totally morphing into Trump when in power, just this impotent, senile man baby just banging a spoon on a fucking high chair, is one day he comes out for like his State of the Union, and it's like the end of 1984. He's got the full Trump hairdo. Like, he's replaced his awful fucking plugs with the complete mane, and he looks identical, and he's bronze. He's like fucking Cheeto colored. And it's just like, that is it. That is the apotheosis of the American presidency. And then right at that moment, the nukes fly. And we all get to go out on a nice high note.
Listening to Macho Man.
This might be terrifying, but this is narratively satisfying. I will accept this.
I'm going to do the jacking off to you guys. It's Macho Man. As I see Lower Manhattan just turn into an orb of sunlight, of just the sun. Like Akira. Macho Man. I want to...
Do the little hands.
I'm just jacking off, guys. I'm sucking him off. I'll just do it at a time. I love it. Just sorry, finishing out this paragraph, it says here, the phrase tested well in polling reviewed by the White House, but it also had the unintended effect of firing up the Trump faithful.
Oh, no!
Merchandisers have found a hot market for Ultra MAGA t-shirts. He shares
the view that things are like tied to each other, and it's like a dialectical relationship. And you can't pump up one without pumping up the other one.
He shares the view that we haven't landed on a winning midterm message at third person close to the White House said of the president, and he's putting a lot of pressure on people to figure out what that is.
See,
How do you fix the things, people? Get back to me. Now, this is leadership. This is delegation of power and responsibility. Fix the things, please.
See, I love the word messaging, which is in the first like sentence of this article. Whenever I like dip into like MSNBC or like check in on the Pod Save guys, all they're talking, it's never about wonder if we did something, wonder if we had an accomplishment, wonder if we changed the material conditions. No, it's messaging. The messaging is never good enough. We're never conveying to the people how good things already are. Yeah,
people who are smart and pay attention to the damn news know that things are actually really good.
Unemployment's down.
Yeah. The smart knowledge, the real truth beyond the veil is that things are objectively doing well, and that the administration is objectively doing well. But we have all of these foolish blinders that we won't let us see it. And it's up to us, the geniuses, the mentats of the Democratic Party, to somehow fool these idiots into finally seeing the reality that's in front of them.
And it can kind of go into really ghoulish places, like, after the Roe memo leaked, I was seeing some people in those corridors being like, obviously this is terrible, atrocious for women's rights, but the messaging, our base, when we can get them scared about these things, if we can keep messaging how bad things will get if you don't keep voting for us, that will actually put us in a really good position for the midterms. We can just talk about how, basically just scare our voters as hard as we can.
Because that's the only button that they've been able to press for the last 20 years. That's all they can do.
Okay, here we go. I've got a winning message for the Democrats for the midterms and 2024. It's this. The Democrats, we are living in the best of all possible worlds.
Yeah.
Yes. There we go.
Dr. Pangloss, this is new VP. Get rid of fucking Kamala Harris. Of course, the funny thing is that it is, in fact, that fantasy of an objective reality of democratic competence and success, policy success, the idea of a upward trajectory. That's the actual propaganda fantasy. That's the actual veil, and it's actually just the people who are not literally hypnotizing themselves every day so that they can go to fucking sleep, given what they do for a living, can actually see, no, it's actually bad. And we don't actually have to have terribly sophisticated understandings of the issues. We don't actually have to bury ourselves into the wonk papers to see that. You do that to enchant yourself. Like fucking Ezra Klein in the New York Times saying, you guys, you just got to get less lawyerly. You just got to stop lawyering up so much.
And then maybe we'll build some tunnels.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my closing thoughts about this is essentially the problem here is that as they seem to acknowledge, why did people vote for Joe Biden? Why did he win? Well, it's because they were sick of Trump, and what he said, nothing will fundamentally change. It was this idea that people were just tired of all the weirdness. They
wanted to return to normalcy.
They wanted to go back to normal. Here is the problem that the Democrats face, and that Biden, the midterms, the next presidential election, just everything in general. Since Biden has become president, things have gotten weirder and weirder and weirder. It has not gotten even one iota more normal. And in fact, it has gotten exponentially stranger with every passing day. And people just don't see a way out of that. So to return to Trump, if he runs again, or the Republicans, Trump's 4 years in the White House, that looks more normal.
That was normal.
To people. That's now the new normal. So if there's people who want to go back to that.
Perhaps the winning message for some kind of new figure on the left, maybe a Democrat, maybe some kind of independent, is just really going, let's get weird with it. Things are already weird. Let's see how weird we can get.
Let's get fun weird, at least.
Yeah,
this is
fun weird.
Nauseous, kind of creepy weird.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to them. I mean, honestly,
absolutely.
I just think.
Let me know how it goes.
I seriously think, though, that Trump, he's probably going to run again, but who are the Democrats going to turn to right the ship? Who's walking through that door? It ain't Kamala. It ain't Joe. It ain't Joe. But
Pete
who's still out?
Buttigieg?
Know who's still out there though? Our girl Hill Dog. You think she has stopped thinking for a second that she could still be president?
Honestly,
they're going to turn to her to save them again. She's going to go.
Because then
third time's the charm. Third time's the charm.
She could then stand for a time of even more normality for the older voters to think of. Hey, remember me before things got weird the first time?
And if the last couple of years has proved anything, it's that anyone who offers predictions about the future is a fool and doesn't know what they're talking about. But I just have a feeling that we have not seen the last of Hill Dog as a national political figure running for president or being president.
Yeah, she's got that Tom Brady thing. It's she can't leave a conversation. I mean, look who has won. She just has to feel if I'm so much smarter and more driven than these idiots.
that if I put myself to it, I could do this. But we'll see. I don't know.
We shall see. I was just like this is a random aside, but I was just thinking back to like the intro to the Tucker Carlson movie, and it was really funny because he was just talking about how like chemicals in our food and water supply have led to grotesque genital abnormalities like smaller penises.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to like, it's basically like half of it is talking to RFK Jr. and the other half is like stock footage from like 1950s like physical fitness catalogs of like Charles Atlas muscle men. And he was just like,
Yes.
just to be clear, this is not gay. And in fact, we've already being accused of being gay because, they don't want to they want to undermine the message. But I mean, I guess like it's surprising to me that the American right has taken this long to develop their own sort of He-Man cult of masculinity. Because the thing is like they've always sold that, but the people selling it were heretofore like bow tie persnickety types like George Will or like fat slobs like Jonah Goldberg, but like now with these like, I don't know, like raw piss nationalists, like, these are cut hunks. These are cut studs who are, like they look like what they're selling.
And they won't give it away. This is a package that's just for the boys. Like you don't give your masculine energy away. You want to nut up your spine into your chakras. You don't want to actually give out any of your sperm. So like keeping your cum in, but still jacking off is actually the best way to go, basically.
So it's like edging.
Yeah.
Like this used to be about how to ejaculate. But now ejaculation of any kind is strictly verboten.
Well, the problem is that everything feels bad. If you jack off too much, you feel bad. If you get too much pussy, it feels bad. If you're getting no pussy, it feels bad. In fact, it turns out it feels bad no matter fucking what. So they always have to invent some fucking new way to be like, actually, the latest thing I found, the latest book I read or whatever, the latest thing I came upon on my path to like becoming the coolest individual that you should learn from online is actually really interesting and cool. But they're going to get bored of that too. I mean, I think that's the problem, right? We're all just like going through the different experiences and realizing like none of these are actually fixing the kind of like feeling that there's something missing, that there's a hole where like the kind of culture that used to keep us together was. And I do think we need to like figure out a message for that and kind of admit that, maybe it's not great that like the most political power we have is like to change the cape color on like the superhero or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess like in terms of where this is all going, I mean, I think like go back to what we were talking about at the beginning, as Matt said. I mean, I saw there was like an article by Ezra Klein the other day, and he was like, a vote for the GOP in the midterms, like what they're promising is just more crisis. And, like the Democrats offer an alternative to that. But Matt, your point was like, it's not a stable situation in which only it is like the piss drinking nationalists who are acknowledging that we are a society in a number of different crises. And you can't just say, like corporate America has been poisoning you and killing you and destroying your life just unfettered now going on 30 to 50 years and shows no sign of slowing down. And the response to that can't simply be, no, they're not, or actually you're not sad.
Yeah, everything's
or
fine.
Actually, like
you've been looking at Russian websites again.
Yeah.
It's all just how we process it, right? Those are the choices left to us.
Yeah. Because it's like the crisis didn't go away when Brandon became president. Yes, he promised stability. Did he fucking deliver it?
Well, Brandon doesn't have crisis mindset, so that's the important thing.
Yeah, that's all that matters. And it's, again, these guys, they want a soothing image on their television. They want to think that somebody is in charge who understands things aren't that bad. They don't want people running around waving the fucking, banging pots and pans together and saying, hey, it is that fucking bad.
Well, that's it. It's like you're in palliative care. You don't want to be reminded you're in palliative care. You want to change the fucking channel so it's a more soothing channel or whatever. But Matt, I think you are right that like, yeah, it is a kind of process of like picking who is going to be on the TV during your palliative care or whatever.
You're right.
Instead of any kind of project that might, show the kind of solidarity that could topple a movement, slonking raw eggs with your bros is actually going to make you feel better while, the inevitable happens.
Well, yeah, and then they do have a few. There is a pathetic, like the raw egg nationalist in that video is the guy who's like, "Oh, fuck off, go sell something else." Because at least these other guys, it's like, hey, maybe it is good to not do seed oils. Maybe testicular tanning is good for you. I don't fucking know. I'm not a doctor. But this guy goes, "Oh, the individual is strong, and then the nation is strong." Oh, okay, yeah, some fucking political multi-level marketing scheme.
Yeah, the globalists don't want you to know about eggs.
Yeah.
as well.
That was
And the idea that you should go back to like Vince Gironda, like the kind of predecessor of this guy is a bodybuilder who called Arnold Schwarzenegger fat, basically.
I can't believe that.
Oh, he's a pig. Schwarzenegger's a pig.
nasty pig. But his whole thing, like the kind of guy who they're trying to model like this idea of like the masculine body that's supposed to represent the nation in our new like fascist utopia was just a bodybuilder. He wasn't even like a strength guy. He was just like, you go to the judges, you kind of preen in front of them, you do the different poses, and they rate you, right? So it's all kind of like weird aesthetic shit, and honestly, kind of soy cuck shit.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's because this particular branch of, I guess, like reactionary masculinism is like it very much came from bodybuilding forums. Like, I don't know, it was a kind of strange evolution, but incels also kind of, or like incel culture often like comes from bodybuilding forums as well, because it's like guys who are like, what the fuck, I did all of this and I still don't have a girlfriend, and get furious. But there's also this kind of, I guess because so much of those bodybuilding forums were guys who were going in it motivated like that to pick up women, they became this kind of a really interesting sort of style of, I guess, anti-feminism. There's like one kind of slightly infamous post on the bodybuilding forum, which like has like 500 replies or something, where it's like a guy who's just like, does anyone else just like not find women's bodies attractive anymore? They're kind of just like actually a bit like disgusting. Yeah, and he's like, and don't you kind of think like, he's like, they're kind of like too soft and like too curvy. It's all like reminding me of like nature and stuff, whereas like, you know, the like hard masculine lines of a man's body now we're talking, that's just more objectively more beautiful, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's kind of this sort of like political fetishization, I guess, of of masculinity, which kind of has this, I guess, erotic quality, particularly when it's put on like visual on film, like Tucker Carlson's documentary.
Well, like I said, like,
so then
look,
the kind of libs respond
you
and say
cannot
this is
lie.
gay,
You cannot
but
lie.
it's not.
Look, you cannot lie. The testicle tanning guys, they look good. The bodies are hitting.
The funny part is that Benjamin Braddock guy, who's the supposed testicle tanning like influencer in that documentary. I went on his Twitter and he is just fucking bitching about Bolsonaro
that was so funny.
losing. Just endless tweets about how it sucks and that it's a U.S. backed coup that made like Lula win, and you know the leftists are
now
doing
we're
violence.
mad about U.S. backed coups.
So he's just like, I mean, and also like I think Tucker basically wanted him to say tanning, because it's not even tanning. It's literally like red light.
It's red
right?
light. Yeah.
It's just red light, and they've shown that it can like wounds will close faster. There is like medical background to that, but it's not even actually tanning. This coward would never sit under a sun lamp and put his precious balls in front of it.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, because there are guys who do tan their balls, right? Like, that's like I guess more on the more kind of new age side of it. And I guess they got it from, I think, it was a like new age women's practice, like in the 70s, I think. It was called like sunning your yoni.
Getting your yoni out there. Yeah.
So they've kind of like adopted that, and then I guess,
that's what I
decided
mean.
to make it like alpha.
I will not get with a woman unless her clit is tanned.
The more obsessed you get with alpha masculinity, the more you will turn your brain into a chick. And by that, I'm sorry, don't be too offensive, a stereotypical misogynist view of what a woman behaves and thinks like.
Yeah, no, the thesis is proven.
Hulse, you know, the kind of finale of his trajectory is he's now doing a war on Vice, and by that he means Vice News, because he's pissed off about this piece that they put out on him. Which, you know, hey, I'm with you. But then he's also selling this like Patriot product MLM thing, and he's selling it by being like, defeat communism and piss off the globalists by buying these products. Get rich while pissing off the communists.
Oh, yeah, because the hook is that none of the products are made in China, right?
Yeah,
So-
communist China.
Yeah.
The other funny thing about the Tucker Carlson documentary is just all the interjections from Tucker himself, because it's like half of it's like a shirtless guy cutting down a tree with an axe. And then it cuts back to like Tucker's studio, and he's just sitting there in a blue Oxford shirt. And look, you know, like Tucker's not like the ugliest man in the world, but he has, I'm sorry, very soft feminine features.
The motherfucker wore a bow tie for 30 fucking years on television in public.
Yeah, but who remembers that, man? Who remembers that? No one can remember anything.
And also, like the way he, shall we say, carefully edited his interview with Kanye West. I mean, he carefully edits details of his own life. Like, for instance, did he and his family get the vaccination or not? Did he get the clot shot? What he says to that is like, hey, buddy, I didn't ask you the last time you fucked your wife. And it's just like, okay, well.
Is he an actual deep state operative? How about that one?
Yeah. How about like what happened with that CIA, the process of trying to get in? Did they not let you in because maybe you had a better role to play as a kind of Anderson Cooper out there?
Wait, did he actually try and join the CIA?
Yeah, he was turned down, supposedly.
I mean, they say he tried to, but plenty of people quit or fired the CIA or never formally joined it who had arrangements with them.
Oh, I thought that was just like part of your joke.
Oh, no, I was not joking on Manclan. Like, he did try to join, and I mean, yeah, if you have him on the right and Anderson Cooper on the left, I think we have a great balanced media.
Did Anderson Cooper try and join the CIA as well?
Oh, well, no comment there. Annie, I'll send you some documents after.
Annie, do your research, okay? Just do further research.
Yeah, do your own research, Annie. I'm sick of this shit.
He's just a Vanderbilt. I mean, Tucker never saw like an imperial expansion he didn't love until 2016, and even then, it's the exact same shit.
He was chasing an audience. He's like all these guys. He's just the biggest version of any of these motherfuckers. Like, that's why people say he's going to run for president. He's too fucking lazy to run for president.
Yeah, why would you give up being the TV guy?
Yeah, you get to say whatever you want. Everybody hangs on your every word. You triggered the libs more than anybody else without having to campaign and see regular scumbag humans and get up before noon.
I have a blind item about Cooper if you want it. Obviously cannot prove that this is true in any way. I'm sure the source that gave it to me is full of shit or whatever. But apparently they had during this debunking craze, which, our podcast, we try to not just do this kind of debunking that I don't know, something like CNN would do or whatever. But they got into this whole misinformation, disinformation thing, and they started to explore conspiracy theories. And they got interested in well, there's so many conspiracy theories about you, Anderson. Wouldn't it be cool if we did a bit on that? And so this is obviously totally blind item, but they started the process of that, and things got so fucking weird that they were like, yeah, never mind, let's just can this bit.
I did want to share about Democrats who are speaking and Democrats who have some fresh new ideas. I got to read a little bit from this because nothing made me laugh harder this week than this interview that Ezra Klein did in the New York Times titled "A Democrat Who Is Thinking Differently." And this is an interview with a congressman from Massachusetts named Jake Auchincloss. Felix, are you familiar with this guy? Auchincloss? Jake Auchincloss.
Yeah, I have always done a triple take when I read his name because it's you see Jake Auchincloss, and it's a very crowded up spelling. And you're like, wasn't that Hitler's plan to, fill the Nile with molten gold, or turn the moon into the last synagogue of the universe? Crazy
Sound
stuff.
of Music was about. Sound of Music was about Jake Auchincloss.
Yeah, a Plan Auchincloss. It's we're gonna find Hagar the Horrible's skeleton. And we're each gonna put one bone from his body into the body of everyone from Nazi high command, and then we're all gonna impregnate each other's wives. So eventually there'll be one sort of monkeys on typewriters thing. Through all these permutations, we'll make a full Hagar the Horrible again, who is our god that we worship.
We have in our possession the spear of Longinus that pierced the ribs of Christ, and also Hagar the Horrible's helmet.
Yeah, that's what Plan Auchincloss was. It was to get the spear of destiny, the Holy Grail,
Asterix and Obelixes.
Yeah, and then Santa's list. It was two biblical weapons, things from the comic book Preacher, and then but also we need the first mistletoe Mrs. Claus made.
All right. Well, this is, I just like to, Ezra introduces this guy, and he says, one Democrat who has interested me is Jake Auchincloss, a congressman from Massachusetts. Among the Democrats talking about the abundance agenda, he has he has particularly interesting things to say. It's not that I agree with every idea he offers here. I don't. But when I hear him, I hear someone wrestling with a question I posed to other Democrats. What is your alternative? What did people need to hear from you over these last few years that they didn't? Okay, so like Auchincloss says here, he says, my view on that is that voters who ordered a Coca-Cola didn't want a Diet Coke. There are two different parties. We have to start by understanding who our voters are not, and then understanding who our voters could be, and then go try and win them over. If you're walking into the polls and your number one issue is guns, immigration, or trans participation in sports, you're probably not going to be a Democratic voter. That's okay. There are two parties. But if you were a voter who went Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump, and you're walking to the polls and your number one issue is cost of living, boy, we'd better win you back. Okay, so like starting off, pretty sensible. But he says here, the core Democratic economic message is that taxes plus housing plus healthcare is less than half your wallet. That is our economic telos. And that requires treating cost disease where it affects sectors across the United States economy, most notably housing and healthcare. Okay, Klein has the same question I do. What is cost disease? Auchincloss says, cost disease is the most important economic policy concept that policymakers are unaware of. Sectors like housing and healthcare are afflicted by Baumol's cost disease, which says that because they are very labor intensive and low productivity, they're going to inflate faster than the gross domestic product. Haircuts are a good example of this. Haircuts are non-automatable and service intensive. Yet the wage for a hairstylist has to be competitive with the wage for someone in a sector that has higher productivity gains. So you're going to see more and more share of wallet going towards these sectors. Imagine if you were going to build a car, and instead of buying a car at a dealership, you stood in your driveway, called up a general contractor, and had them subcontract out the various parts to the car. And people came to your driveway and built the car piece by piece. Imagine how much that car would cost. A lot more than a typical car, right? Well, that's how we build houses, and it doesn't actually have to be that way. And in fact, it is tied to the abundance agenda that I know you and Derek Thompson and others have been pushing in front of policy conversations. The abundance agenda makes the case that if you're trying to lower the cost of living for the typical American family, you need to unlock supply rather than subsidize demand. You need to build more stuff. And then he goes on to talking about we need zoning reform to expand supply, but also we need we lean into off-site construction, turn housing production away from stick-built, where it's highly service-intensive, and towards modular construction, where it's more factory-intensive. So he basically wants to build modular homes.
So like prefab houses where it's modular. So like you could buy the garden upgrade if you did go to work. Or you could take something away. Like if your wife's being bad, you can take away the second bathroom, and so she'll have less towels to, customize.
I mean, even if there's like a germ of a point there, like I just read that and my brain turned off. Like when he started talking about Bauman's cost disease, it's like how about just I don't know, like make it illegal to charge rent or something.
I mean, we should test this man for Hagar the Horrible's DNA, because the cost disease sounds like someone working for Plan Auschwitz would call a certain ethno-religious identity in Europe.
Imagine you want to build a house.
Germany's afflicted by the cost disease.
Imagine you want to build a house, but the only people available to build it are the Romani people, who are known for their deceitful contracting practices.
Yeah, a cost disease in society. This whole thing, his whole program, I mean, like, it is the way he starts off, where it's like, okay, like if you're into whatever shit on Facebook, you're probably not going to be a part of this. It makes more sense than anything I've heard from like any Democrat that Ezra Klein will talk to in a really long time, I guess. But then the whole like abundance thing, that would work great in a universe where, like, I guess Hillary had a plane accident in 2014. We're like 5% more like the West Wing, and there was this like big Democratic primary in 2016 of young technocrats, and like the national mood is like 20% better. But it's just like seeing it now is so fucking wild to me.
Well, Klein says, your point about modular housing is well taken, which is why I think we need bigger ideas than we have right now. You pointed out in California, and I've seen myself in Massachusetts, that despite the liberalizing land use restrictions, successes that we've had at the state house level, we haven't built that much housing, have we? Auchinclaw says, what about a governor-sanctioned charter city in these states? Massachusetts has 2 bases that have been demilitarized, Fort Devens and Union Point, a tremendous amount of land there that is interstitial to local zoning regulations. Why don't we have the big idea of the governor and the state house, either in Massachusetts or in California or another blue state, starting a new city and saying, we're actually going to build 200,000 units of housing there. We're going to ban cars and develop it so it's more organic and walkable. So turning decommissioned military bases into 15-minute cities, I don't know. Maybe this guy's winning me over.
Yeah, whatever. I just my brain turns off this housing stuff. I just you guys over there, you figure it out. I don't. I've tried to do that thing on Twitter. I think we all do it, where it's like you scroll through enough and you end up on the profile of someone who's like far enough outside of your social or lurking circles that it's quite novel to you, and you're interested to see what are the what are the foundations of their world. I've done it with all types of people. I've done it with inner city anime fans, but they're in Canada. Or I've done it with French fans of FaZe Clan. Or I've done it with, fans of Jeezy in the country Gabon. And I've tried to do it with housing, and I just get I close my eyes and I just see a red background with white letters. Kill yourself now, kill yourself now, kill yourself now. And I have to stop because I hope you guys figure it out because I cannot pay attention.
All right, well, let's get out of housing here. He also says, I'm also relatively pro-blockchain because I think it can empower creators in a digital economy. Okay. Going on here, he talks about, but what TikTok makes so plain and what you just laid out is no. Let's be very clear here that TikTok and ByteDance report to the CCP, and the CCP has levers of influence as well. So let me just underscore that, not to be a doomer about it, but Trump issued the Trump coin, and that Trump coin is the equivalent of issuing an account number for a Swiss bank account, telling foreign adversaries they can deposit funds into blah, blah, blah. So he's talking about the Chinese and the Saudis bribing Trump. But then he goes on to say, I hosted an app challenge, basically where young middle schoolers and high schoolers can build their own apps. What was striking to me is, even in the last 4 years that I've been doing this, the apps that they were building were about real life community. The winning app created a way for people to sign up online to go out and clean up their environment locally. Gen Z gets it. They understand that this is not good for them, and their parents look at their kids and say, I don't think it's fair that they're growing up and that their adolescence is being warped by the bottom line of these companies. So he created an app an app to not use apps.
Was he just railing Adderall during this? What the fuck are you? Can you slow down? He's taking his shirt off. And another thing, I make all the children in my community rearrange all the books in my house. I throw them out of my fucking window. I make them come in and rearrange them by an order that I've come up with. Sometimes it's alphabetical. Sometimes it's by the race of the author. I don't even know what their fucking races are. They found out that 7% of my books are written by Pacific Islanders. What, Jake?
What? The last bit I want to talk about is where he gets into healthcare. And he says here, I feel like as a party, we need to move away from equating health insurance with healthcare. For the last 15 years, the core thesis of the party has been everybody needs health insurance, pre-existing condition or not. And we're going to subsidize the health insurance companies to make sure that it's universal. We've had a lot of success doing that, and it's critical that everybody does have health insurance in this country, but the focus needs to shift towards cost. We're not going to be able to convince Americans that we're the party to trust on healthcare if we don't have big ideas on how we actually make not Medicare for all, but how about community health centers for all, where everyone can access a doctor and a pharmacist and a diagnostician without having to go through the maze of health insurance. And then he says, because actually I'm a supporter of private health insurance, because neither side can actually say no to the other. You see what you would expect from a lack of competition and choice, inflation. What we need is more granularity in those healthcare negotiations, such that it's not the entire provider system negotiating with an entire payer system, but rather different centers of excellence and specialties that have to negotiate.
Oh, good. Yeah, okay. More personnel and fucking rent seekers and remoras. I love Jake Eisenslaus, not just because he is Herman Goring did the thing Stannis did to create him. I love him because it's like he'll start out saying something that like, imagine in a better world, this would be like the most right-wing guy in the American AMLO.
He starts out talking sense, but then like he gets a head of steam going and it evaporates into complete drivel.
Yeah, like he'll start out and be like, look, like this situation where like people are beginning their professional lives in like immense amounts of debt. It's terrible. It's crushing. There are like these knock-on effects that are like deleterious to people's social lives and just their bonds in their personal life. It's going into, how people are starting families. And then he'll go, and that's why we have to do something where you can rent a college student for 20 years. And you can earn 30% of what they earn at work, but if they go unemployed, you have to pay for their student loans. What?
I mean,
how did you get there?
His platform is, and I read the whole interview. It's more modular houses and different zoning policies.
The healthcare thing is the most fucking insane thing I've ever heard because it's like, we need more granularity in the healthcare system. No, there's not nearly enough of that. People haggling over and setting the exact price point for what is a 900,000% profit margin on a single aspirin. There's not enough fucking granularity. I put 30 more people that you have to call to go see a doctor.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Like the most like the worst drivel he said is when he starts talking about an attention tax. He says here, we use a phrase that I think hints at what this might look like. When you're scrolling on your phone and when you're looking at content, you are paying attention, right? And if you're paying attention, that they are buying attention. In a real world, that could be subject to sales tax and a value-added tax.
You got to get respect.
In the digital world, it's monetized and thereby it is not taxable. The degradation of attention and the greed for our attention spans these corporations exhibit suggests that we need to update our tax code to reflect not an industrial economy, but an intention economy. These companies will come back and say, if you try to do a value-added tax, it's going to be unworkable. And here are 55 reasons it's unworkable. Is it going to be challenging to implement that? Yes. But it's also challenging to do capital gains taxes on private equity. Our tax code and tax enforcement update themselves. So, like, how about you just do taxes on capital gains, which is the only thing these people fucking care about?
How is it difficult to do capital gains to private equity? You go, okay, what was the profit here? You're taxing the concept of attention. I love him. He's taking like probably the single like just as far as like maybe not the worst problem in the world, but like what is like the biggest problem for social relations, for how worthwhile and enjoyable people's lives are, how they retain information, and how they actually understand and hold the concept of time and reality in their mind. It is probably modern media consumption, phones. And he gets there and he acknowledges it. And then he's like, we should go into Tron to figure out how to tax them. What the fuck are you talking about?
No, Felix, listen to this. I think the core thesis is very well grounded. When you are paying attention and they are buying attention, that has value. And we know it has value because they turn around and bundle it for a price to advertisers. And we simply say, you're paying a VAT tax based on that. And the VAT is not going to go to the general fund. The VAT is going to go to a separate chartered entity that disperses the funds for local journalism. This is just like, just take away their money and break up these corporations. Just nationalize these fucking companies and then tax the people who own them, tax their capital gains. What is this? I mean, like, again, it's the germ of a reasonable idea that like these companies profit off our attention but like it's then needlessly complicated. But as soon as you start talking about a VAT system for your attention, again, like I read this and my brain just turns off.
Look,
like I just imagine pitching this to like a voter.
Think about pitching this to like one of those guys from that article we read with Pendeo Time, where it's like, my wife's been locked in a refrigerator for 3 years, you know? My wife's been locked in a refrigerator, and I love Trump, but I think I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
My car's expensive. What are you going to do? And he's like, he's completely naked, fucking purple from taking Dexies. You know, you put a hat on your head, but you put ideas in your head. What if we made hats and books in the same place? And then if you make more hats than books, you're taking away from things you put in the head to put something on the head. And then every cent that we tax the hats that are more than books, we put that into a fund to go big head mode in real life.
I just want to read the last part of this. And keep in mind that he just said that I'm a supporter of private health insurance.
Sorry, one more thing. He's established, like, I really like bureaucracy to the point that, like, I'm on record the only guy to suggest this. I think there should be a 200,000 person federal bureaucracy specifically to, like, indulge the fantasies of the insane. Just like make a fake program where insane people in America
busy box for lunatics.
Yeah, lunatics go there and they're like, I think I'm being, sex trafficked by Russell Crowe. And like a guy in a suit and tie will be like, okay, let's get this on file. They'll just indulge them and keep them away from the normal world, but not fill them with drugs or torture them. But he is creating so many offices and sub offices and like oversight offices to the sub office to make sure that they're deficit neutral. He will actually need press gangs to staff all of this. We will get to full employment, and your kid is going to have to start working for like the local journalism attention fund oversight committee when he turns like 4. There aren't enough people in the world to fill out these positions.
Well, I mean, Felix, the Ukraine war coming to an end. Maybe we could give visas to some of their press gangs to come to this country and round up lames and cripples to work the data mines of his attention tax bureau.
Yeah, I think this might be the new Hitler. I really do.
Citizen, you now live in the charter zone. Yeah. Welcome to Fort Owens, formerly of Massachusetts.
I really think this is the new Hitler, not in the sense that he's going to do all of that stuff. Maybe. But like in the sense where it's like, I'm reading this and I'm hearing this. We're all hearing this and we're going, what the fuck? Who could be into this? But there's like a certain type of mania that it hits on something that I think it will result
It's a mental illness born of too much education.
Well, I don't think that was Hitler's problem.
Auschwitz.
Well, I actually just think it's stimulants similar to Hitler.
Adderall.
But I think somehow like 70% of people are going to be into this. Just they don't even know what he's saying, but they just like his sort of like mania, like with Hitler. And we're gonna have to delete this episode because of how strong he is. That will suck. He's gonna do all the stuff that Trump could never do. He will conquer Canada. He'll do the I forgot the actual word for when the Nazis took over Austria because all I can think is Auschwitz. I know it wasn't the Auschwitz.
That's the word.
It was. What the fuck was that?
Anschluss.
It's so close to Auschwitz.
I just tried to search for it on Wikipedia, and the first entry is Jake Auchinclaw. I don't know how to spell it.
This is the new Hitler.
Yep.
He's not going to go after Jews. I don't know who he's going to go after.
He's going to go after kids on their phone. He also wants to ban phones in schools, which you know what I'm in favor of too.
Yeah, sure.
He has this attention tax thing, but then he says he's also big into quote a solution for healthcare is invest in biotechnology. He's not for Medicare for all. And
sewing twins together. See how much salt water a fucking Eastern European can drink.
Sorry, I just want to. The last thing that he closes out here, and just keep in mind what I just said about that he's against Medicare for all and for private insurance. The last question Ezra Klein asked him is, your bio on X says that you want an economy that works like Legos, not Monopoly. What do you mean by that? I think it's working like hungry hippos right now myself.
Yeah. Jake,
grab what you can and run.
Jake, you're one of the most insane people I've ever talked to.
But listen to his
Can you remind me that thing you said when you fucking sprinted through my door because you were on PCP and shut down all the pain receptors in your body? When you left a Jake Auchincloss-sized hole in my garage and held a knife to my wife's throat and said, listen to my new idea on how I'm going to fix envelopes. Why are you licking them? They should come closed. They should already have your letter in
it. Sorry, just for him to explain his toy analogy for the U.S. economy, he says here, he means that too much of our economy has been captured by middlemen and rent seekers, and not enough of it is empowering individuals to build things that matter together. And that's why we need to continue to have private health insurance companies.
This is so Hitler. He's like, we're not, this is all like rents. This is nothing, spinning the wheels. Communism, dead idea. Capitalism has gotten us here. Third way, the only way we're going to get to the moon, put the last synagogue there, find Calvin and Hobbes,
find Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, clone
We're
him.
gonna go, we need people working together on grand projects. A train that's 50 miles long and can go Mach 3. Going to Jupiter's moons. Going to Jupiter's moon, Europa, the ice moon. Going there, drilling to the inside using a drill powered by the minds of children who we have systematically deprived of both technology and reading so they can focus all of their young minds on the motion of this drill. Telekinesis is real. We need to get to the center of Europa. Once we get there, we will find the real existing people from the comic book Foxtrot. They predate humanity by 7 trillion years. Humanity was designed in the concept of Foxtrot. Jason Fox is 700 trillion years old. He predates God. God was invented by the bald dad from Foxtrot. Paige is 400 billion years old. She's the youngest member of the family.
The iguana is there, living under the surface of the ice planet, the ice moon.
Yeah, this is 80% of Americans are going to vote for him. This is so scary.
Well, there you have it. That's the future of the Democratic Party.
This is the future of the world. This is if anyone played the Wolfenstein games, this is what it's going to be like.
His invocation of investing in biotechnology is also very unsettling.
It's really scary. Well, I mean,
we won't need cars when we're animals. When we're going to accept her as real.
If anyone is like going to make like this cyborg suit from Metal Gear Rising, it might be Jake Auchincloss. I don't think this will be so bad, actually.
Well, I mean, I think
this will be fine. We should get on board.
Yeah. All right.
I don't want to be in a camp. I think it's nice too. Look, it really could be worse. He's ambitious.
He made the 15-minute cities run on time. I'll say that for Auchincloss.
Yeah, and he went to that dimension where Family Guy and The Simpsons knew each other. The one that was trapped 8 miles underneath the St. Louis Arch. And that's where the only real Jewish person in the world lives.
This is the congressman from Massachusetts and the Denver International Airport. He represents 2 districts, strangely enough.
He was born there. He was born underneath that mural. The scariest guy ever.
All right.
Ezra Klein is going to be killed in a Francis Dollarhide-esque manner by this man.
It's going to be a hell of a PowerPoint presentation. And joining Felix and I right now is Matt Brunig. Matt, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So the buzzword of the moment. If you are a political sicko, if you follow the political news, if you're online, if you've probably seen the word abundance being used very frequently over the last couple of days, and it's sort of it's the hottest new thing since 1 billion Americans. So Matt, like, so it's a movement to like kind of rebrand the Democratic Party and like a new sort of future looking way to build and innovate our ways out of the intractable problems of the 21st century. It's got a book by Derek Thompson and Ezra Klein selling this new package. So like Matt, like as simply as you can describe it, what is the abundance agenda?
Well, I mean, in the broadest sort of gloss, it is this sort of like modernist, futurist kind of ambition. But the book, Abundance, as much coverage as there's been about it, it really just kind of says two things. The first thing is that the administrative burdens, the red tape, if you will, that go into construction are too high and need to be lowered, and that our innovation system in the U.S. is broken. There's too much risk aversion. And
so it's a very ambitious and world-changing agenda. I mean, like, and also very original as well. I've never heard such daring thoughts uttered in political circles. There is too much red tape, and we've got to build more things.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like Matt Iglesias's "The Rent Is Too Damn High," which I think came out in 2012, but also applied to trains and energy facilities.
The power plants are too damn small. But Matt, like, so this is like the book is like it's a number of things. It's like it's sort of a list of policy prescriptions, but it's also a kind of philosophical, I don't know, cri de coeur, attempting to kind of shake off the doldrums of this past election and sort of rebrand the Democratic Party in, like, as you said, like a very future oriented but also politically moderate vein. Like, so I'm interested, like, in the abundance agenda, like, who are the culprits that are identified for like sort of stymieing building new housing and innovation?
Yeah, the enemy, they're kind of cagey about that, and that's been kind of one of the interesting parts about the discourse is some people have criticized, where are the enemies? Who are the people who are opposing this? And then it kind of falls to other people, mostly at the Niskanen Center, to kind of fill in the gaps. And I mean, I guess really it's those pesky NIMBYs at the end of the day that are the big barriers to construction. And then I guess sort of like doctor lobbies and other professional class people who thrive on red tape and the consulting class and things like that. The PMC writ large, I guess that's like the power center that is holding the future back.
Well, I mean, this book arrives at a current moment where, like, after the 2024 election, I think like the consensus is that the current Democratic Party is fucking washed, and like they need to do something. They need to get voters back. Either they need to go be more moderate, or they need to do something different. And like this book arrives at like the same week that like Bernie Sanders, for instance, is turning out like tens of thousands of people in Denver and all over the country to essentially a message about fighting oligarchy and identifying the culprits that are ruining the lives of people in this country as essentially the entrenched money and power of billionaires. But like, is it a coincidence that the abundance agenda is arriving at the exact moment when there is like a concerted push to rebrand the Democratic Party in a more social democratic direction? And what do the authors of Abundance, Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson, how do they feel like? Are any like broad universal programs or policies? Is any of that make it into their abundance prescription?
No, there are no welfare components to it at all. I mean, you're right that I think, and whether this was a happenstance on their end or planned this out this way, we're in this period where everything is, the Democrats got nothing, right? Schumer has nothing. No one even knows what to say. We did industrial policy. Lena Khan ran the FTC for 4 years. Like, we tried everything. And so what can we do? What are we going to say? And this is the fresh thing, right? I guess, right? Like we could just keep going back and saying, what about universal health care? What about child care? But we've been saying that. We don't ever really deliver. They tried the Build Back Better bill, and it failed. And so I guess instead of rehashing all that, let's try something new. We can, if you
and that's
read
something new is
yeah.
getting rid of red tape.
Getting rid of red
overregulation.
tape, but from there you sell it in a much broader way. Like the book starts with a depiction of 2050 as the authors imagine it. And
can I read that, by the way?
Yes, please do, because go ahead.
Okay, my favorite part of the book, and I perused it, but by far the best part of the book by far is the opening section. It begins as such: you open your eyes at dawn and turn in the cool bedsheets. A few feet above your head, affixed to the top of the roof, a layer of solar panels blinks in the morning sun. Their power mixes with electricity pulled from several clean energy sources: towering wind turbines to the east, small nuclear power plants to the north, deep geothermal wells to the south. 40 years ago, your parents cooled their bedrooms with jewels dredged out of coal mines and oil pits. They mined rocks and burned them, coating their lungs with the byproducts. They encased their world, your world, in a chemical heat trap. Today, that seems barbaric. You live in a cocoon of energy so clean, it barely leaves a carbon trace, and so cheap you can scarcely find it on your monthly bill. The year is 2050. It goes on. You open the refrigerator. In the fruit and vegetable drawer are apples, tomatoes, and an eggplant shipped from the nearest farm, mere miles away. These crops don't grow horizontally across fields. They grow vertically on tiered shelves inside a tall greenhouse. These skyscraper farms spare countless acres for forests and parks. As for the chicken and beef, much of it comes from cellular meat facilities, which grow animal cells to make chicken breasts and ribeye steaks. No live animals needed, which means no confinement and slaughter. Once prohibitively expensive, cultivated meat scaled with the help of plentiful electricity. When your parents were young, nearly 25% of all global landmass was used to raise livestock for human consumption. That is unimaginable now. Much of that land has rewilded. Out of the window and across the street, an autonomous drone is dropping off the latest shipment of star pills. Several years ago, daily medications that reduced overeating, cured addiction, and slowed cellular aging were considered miracle drugs for the rich, especially when we discovered that key molecules were best synthesized in the near-zero gravity conditions of space. But these days, automated factories thrum in low orbit. Cheap rocketry conveys the medicine down to Earth, where it saved millions of lives and billions of healthy years. So, it's a quite a utopian portrait of what America in 2050 will look like, and like that's the vision that like this is what we have to get to.
This is like a piece of found audio in a BioShock game. This is like you like play this and then you get sawed in half by a robot.
It is. I think there is something very telling about this. Part of the question is, where is this coming from? And I think one of the places it's clearly coming from is as I say in my piece, the refugees of the effective altruist movement after it imploded. And the fixation, the long amount of time he spends on cellular meat, because that's like a real fixation of them. And, whatever, I'm not like against cellular meat and lab grown meat or what have you, but it's kind of a weird thing to put as your like utopian, like a lot of people find that kind of off-putting. It's not like not racing towards cellular meat. And then I also thought another potentially dystopian thing that they don't view as dystopian is this idea that the sky is full of these
thrumming low-orbit factories.
Yeah, like Earth has an electron shell of factories that are like, okay, we've fixed the entire power grid to be like, and I am in favor of nuclear energy. I'm working on my own energy positive fusion in my bathroom right now, and I think I'll be able to scale it in 5 years. And lab grown protein, great. I'm a fan of animals, absolutely. But it'll be something like that, like the power grid is nuclear, blah blah blah, and then something psychotic like. There are going to be pills that are shipped to you by fucking rockets, which is like, okay, do we give a shit about the environment or not? Because they're apparently
There's apparently a rocket being sent from low Earth orbit every 10 seconds.
The specific thing that it's bringing is Ozempic that's being grown in space and set down by like an Amazon drone. It's like, okay, so great. We're going to have factories in the sky that make our Ozempic, and that's going to be dropped off by drones to make sure we don't overeat our cellular meat. That's what we're racing towards.
Matt, there's a section right after this where it says, outside, the air is clean and humming with the purr of electric machines all around you. Electric cars and trucks glide down the road, quiet as a light breeze and mostly self-driving. Children and adult commuters follow on electric bikes and scooters, some personally owned and some belonging to subscription networks run by the city. I love the idea that like in a future where energy is just free, there's still fucking subscription services for electric scooters, like, because like I mean, it's this like utopian vision of the future where like, yeah, low orbit factories shoot rockets of Ozempic at you by a drone, but like there's still all this shitty stuff that currently exists now, like like subscription scooter companies.
Yeah, you're still having to pay your Park Mobile every time you park your scooter.
Yeah. This is like if the WeWork guy was Paul Atreides.
Well, I mean, look, it's a nice vision of the future. It's clean. The environment is better. I mean, they take efforts to show about how much more free time everyone will have now in this future because AI will help people be more productive and certainly not put them out of work. But like, how do we get to that vision? I guess like how does the policy connect up? Because like they keep saying that like the problem of the present cannot just be confined to the distribution of wealth and resources. Like that's part of the problem, but we need to go further than that. We need to invent the future now because 100 years ago they didn't have helicopters or whatever.
Yeah, so I think this is where the book kind of muddles a little bit because it was clearly meant to be two books. Obviously, there's two authors, and they just kind of decided there was enough affinity to push them together. But you have the one piece of it which is just more construction. But like more construction, hey, yeah, great, more houses, all that. That's all well and good, but that's not innovation and futurism or anything like that. It's just more apartments, more nuclear facilities, whatever. We have all that. We just want more. Okay, great. But how are we getting all this new stuff? And that's where the sort of the problems with the innovation system come in. And basically, in this, I think is Derek Thompson's part of the book. Basically, it's just we need to fund more risky science. Like we're too risk averse in what we fund. It's kind of like, we give it to these older scientists who are doing really safe stuff. We need to kind of give it to like wacky scientists who like we need with new wacky stuff.
Yeah, we need a billion Dr. Yakub scholarship programs at every major American university. We're inventing a new kind of white people that's going to invent the future.
What if we sew the Bankman-Fried twins together, or brothers? I forget what they are. Do you think they could fix the crypto market? I do.
So you have that. I mean, and the way they tell it in the book, it's very narrative based, and it's hard to kind of get your head around. So, like, a big part of that is they say, "Hey, here's a great story. The lady who came up with mRNA vaccines, she for like 15, 20 years, no one would give her grant money. Like people just ignore her. They thought that she wasn't really going anywhere with it, and then she did actually go somewhere with it." And so how many other of those ladies are there out there? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, could have just been her, I don't know how many there are. Like, and how do you, it's very speculative. How do you know what kind of scientific discoveries are just kind of lying on the road somewhere? And if the NIH would give them a little bit of money, they would go somewhere. I have no idea. They don't really make a stab at it. They do end up basically saying we need a meta science to study that question.
Oh God.
Matt,
my God.
Look, there are certain of the list of policy preferences that these people have. Like, I'm sure like any one of us could find certain things that we think are preferable or even a good idea. But like where I get tripped up with this is like going back to like the YIMBY thing. It's like they want to build all this stuff. They want to like have a futuristic infrastructure. They want to change the scope of innovation and technology. And like, I've seen a lot of the defenses of this book talk about how like this is hearkening back to like a New Deal era of like, big grand projects. But like what's missing from this is like not just like any desire to have the government actually build anything, but like it exists in a time where there is no real state apparatus or even party apparatus to like translate this into anything real. And what we're left with is just basically like we need to let the current crop of billionaires and real estate speculators and drug companies just sort of cook. And, you know, maybe in 100 years time, we'll be having a low orbital factories.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely, I would say, defers more to like unleashing private capital to make these investments, and the government's role is to kind of prod it along, give grants out, subsidize, promise to make advanced market commitments to buy stuff that they, you know, come up with and produce for new innovations. It's kind of, it's definitely not in the like, I don't know, works progress administration vein of let's just build some big old state-owned enterprises and see what we can do there. It actually reminds me of there's a paper we put out at People's Policy Project called, I think it was called The Nordic Model Invents the Goods. And it was about how Nordic countries dealt with like their version of the Inflation Reduction Act, which was our climate bill, is they just created state-owned enterprises to like do stuff. Like in Denmark, they have a state-owned enterprise that is like building a giant island out in the water to like catch wind. And it's like, I don't know, whatever, awesome. But it's like, yeah, it's great. It's that it really, they have the crazy futuristic depictions of it, except it's like the government is just like, oh, we're going to build a giant island and catch waves and wind and pipe it back to the shore. And here, like the equivalent would be, we're going to get your permit done faster and we'll promise to buy the first, you know, gigawatt hour of output.
Like, I have not read this book. I don't plan on doing it unless forced at gunpoint. But do the authors ever try to reconcile why, you know, in the last 20 or 30 years with this like explosion in tech wealth and investment and like the immense liquidity of zero interest rates, why like the farthest they have gotten is, you know, city bikes and Roku?
Well, I mean, they're going to tell you it's because that's where the money can flow. You can actually put it into Roku, but you can't build the buildings or whatever else.
Roku City is still just a mere dream, a mere glint in the eyes of the abundocrats. Matt, I mean, this gets back to like you said, like these are sort of the cast-offs of the implosion of the effective altruism movement, which is, you know, a little downstream from the YIMBY movement. And like YIMBYism, it's like they have this one idea that like it's zoning laws are the problem. Like the reason rent is high and like, you know, we have a housing crisis is that there just aren't enough houses and we need to build more of them. And the reason we're not building more of them is like, you know, restrictions on density and height limits and local HOAs, et cetera, et cetera. But like where this falls apart for me is this idea that like the solution is we need to get rid of zoning regulations or like we need to make it easier to build things, but only to allow the like private actors to build things in the hopes that like the idea is in 10 years time, the rent will decrease by 1%. And like, not only is that like inadequate to the situation, I don't understand how that's an attractive political message. Because like this is not just about policy. This is about reshaping the message of the Democratic Party to get back, you know, this voters that they feel that they should be getting the votes from.
Yeah, I had a piece in my review actually that was on this point, and then I cut it out because it was starting to get too long. But I do think there is a risk here. You know, let's suppose, and I think it's reasonable to suppose that getting relaxing zoning, kind of making the rules easier to build, that is a like necessary part of getting to abundant housing, and you know everyone has a house and it's all cheap and all that, but it's not sufficient. There's so much more you have to do beyond that to actually get to your goal. And so there's a real risk as you go out there and you say, we're going to cut the red tape, cut the zoning, unleash private capital, let them go at it. And then you still run up against other problems that haven't been knocked out. And then these people who have now, you know, gone with you and said, yeah, okay, build whatever you want in my neighborhood. Or we're going to get rid of all this discretionary power to stop stuff and whatever. And then they turn around and you haven't really delivered. So like, yeah, I do think it would. Sometimes it can be a little bit not fair to just kind of say, oh, well, this won't solve all the problems. It'll only solve some of them. But if it's going to be the main focus of your politics, it probably does need to solve all, like it needs to get rid of all the issues with the housing scarcity issue, not just the one. And then maybe, like you said, you can reduce rents by 5%, 10% over a few years or something.
But like, what is their attitude about like, are they ever pressed or like called to account for like, why can't the government just do these things? Like, why can't the government just have its own drug company or health insurance program or housing or education?
No.
Like, why can't the state just do the things that need to get done to take us to the awesome, the awesome future, the land of tomorrow that we all want to be living in 2050?
Yeah, they don't ever really approach that question. I think, they're ostensibly officially agnostic about, okay, are we going to do this through the state? Are we going to do this through private actors? It's just kind of get it done. But, it does raise the question. And I think if you had to push them, they would say, because this is always where they would say, well, that's just not politically possible. Like, I think it's hard to convince people to have the government build more public housing, because it's got such a bad reputation, or people are so worried about, sort of communists. It's so easy to sink like a government-run prescription drug company as like socialist, and people won't go for that. And so, and part of my review kind of fixates on this. What invariably happens with proposals like this is they end up proposing something that actually has its own political problems, like political cell problems. And then when you say, why not this, they'll end up rejecting that for similar reasons. They'll say, oh, that's not politically practical. So there's a lot of like selectivity that goes into deciding what is and isn't politically practical, and what politically impractical things you nonetheless want to push forward and try to achieve. And so for them, the politically impractical thing they're willing to do is like take on the homeowners and rip up all the zoning, even though that, seems somewhat unpopular. But they're not willing to go as far as to say, why not build some big old state-owned enterprises and have them just go out, stamp housing everywhere, stamp rail everywhere, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it seems like the country that they should be emulating is China.
Yes, they mentioned China in the book.
If we want to build the future, I mean, I think we should be looking to the CCP for like, how did they do it?
Yeah, no, they mentioned it in the book, and they do kind of say that, yeah, California couldn't build the high-speed rail, but China has built, like 25,000 miles of it in the last 5 years or something like that. And they're kind of like, that's great, but then they don't follow up as to like, as best they do is they say, well, they're kind of still in the like nascent developing nation period where the government is willing and able to just kind of, run roughshod over everyone, and everyone's just kind of cool with it because they're cool with high levels of growth. But when you get to this sort of mature economy level, people are more, risk averse, or they're less willing to kind of go with it. But yeah, that would have been a great part of the book to say, okay, China's done 27,000 miles of this, and California couldn't even get like 10 miles of it done. What did China do? Maybe we should copy that. But no, they didn't pursue that thread.
Another aspect of the book is that like they make it very clear that this is an argument that's pitched at liberals, right? Like they're not trying to convince right wingers here. Like even though I think that's mostly the people who are funding the abundance agenda and the somehow half dozen abundance institutes that have somehow come out of nowhere to sort of be the vanguard of this new movement. I mean, like, yeah, it's getting funding from like right wing and libertarian sources, but like, what is the pitch that they're making to like forget the left, but like to liberals here about like what they're wrong about and what needs to change?
Yeah, I mean, liberals are too focused. They say let me quote this directly because I was so shocked when I read this. American liberalism has measured its successes in how near it could come to the social welfare system of Denmark. So that's where you guys are wrong. You've been focused too much on implementing the Nordic model in the U.S., which is absurd because obviously the only politician who has really like emphasized that by name was Bernie Sanders, and liberals are, defined as like the center left. They hated the shit out of him for it and really attacked him for it and said it was like everyone gets a pony and whatever it was that Hillary Clinton was saying. But that, I guess, is that's how I viewed it. Now, other people say this is more vague and it's unclear what they meant, but they're saying, look, liberals, you guys have made a mistake. You've been focused too much on social welfare, building welfare states, redistribution. You need to be focused on building the future, increasing growth in innovation and production. And we're here to get you back on the right track.
I mean, I guess like this is what's so stunning to me about that opening section about what 2050 could look like. Because like, yeah, that sounds like a nice country to live in. That sounds like a nice future, nice future world. But like 25 years in the past here, in the present, Like, look at the state of this fucking country, and like, how are we going to get to Elysium when like we don't even have a public healthcare system in this country?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. They do kind of say, look, part of their way of contrasting what they want from the welfare state is they kind of say welfare state stuff is easy, right? You just change some rules.
Okay. Oh, good.
Well, you change some rules in the tax code. You change some rules in the welfare state code. You just kind of send money out through computers. It's building stuff that's hard. And I thought, in a way, it's kind of like the Kennedy, we don't do whatever the hell he said, we do it because it's hard and all that. But I was reading and I was thinking, well, you guys can't even do the easy stuff. So what am I meant to believe that now you can take this on? Like, you're right. Like, literally change a little bit of lines in the computer and you can just send money into people's accounts like they did it during COVID. But you don't do it. You can't even get that done. And yet I'm meant to believe you're going to start building vertical farms and starship fucking pharmacies and stuff.
Yeah, it like the abundance thing is interesting because I get the sense they've been working on this for a while, and that's why, as Will mentioned, there's like 17 abundance institutes. There's like abundance for kids. I was going to CVS the other day to pick up my small dick medicine, and I got canvassed by abundance for Southeast Asians. So like clearly they've been working on it, but the thing that it's like its debut comes immediately after the acceleration people who sound shockingly similar to this, like similar ideas where it's like, okay, nuclear power, great projects that aren't so much developmentalist as they are like streamlining the consumer experience even further. And like this huge emphasis on turning space into, I guess like a combination between a pharmaceutical lab and Costco. But it's like abundance is ostensibly the future of the left, and the acceleration movement is supposed to be like, once we get done with all the small problems, like taking care of the vicious anti-Semitism problem, we can go to space and like have nuclear fusion powered planes. But like both movements are so stymied by like everything, like the easy things that you point out. The right wing people are, they're trying to privatize Social Security, and they're like, how does fucking Outlook work? I'm going to kill myself. And the Democrats like can't even hold town halls without a, Korean War veteran cutting their head off with a katana, but they're both going to fucking, do nuclear cold fusion and go to space now.
Yeah, it is weird to kind of, essentially bemoan a lack of state capacity and then, put forward an agenda that requires a tremendous amount of state capacity and not really explain very well how do we get here from here. And obviously state capacity is being destroyed even more now that Musk is kind of just firing people at random. So, I don't know. It's kind of like having an agenda that's like, what if we did really cool things? And like, why don't we do these cool things? We should do them. And you're like, or it'd be like, well, I should just become a professional basketball player. Like, they make a lot of money.
It is the political and state equivalent of like breaking up with your girlfriend so you can become a League of Legends pro and then going, well, I think I need to have like 5 or 6 kids like within the next month.
Matt, in your review of abundance, I think you make a very good point, which is that like a lot of the sort of prescriptive policies that they're talking about is like not exactly like a new thing, and in fact, it has been what the government's been doing. You write here, indeed, we have now seen what it looks like when the government supports and subsidizes technological innovation and implementation without concerning itself with the inegalitarianism of the system. His name is Elon Musk. In his desire to promote electric vehicles and rocketry innovations, the U.S. government made him the richest man in the world, and then he used his riches to take over a major political communications platform and then the government. And like this is like another huge hurdle to this is the idea that it will be the philanthropic and humanist impulses of the billionaire class that will lead us into a future in which we are all liberated from sickness and work.
Yeah, I think they it suffers from a lack of political economy. I think is what some people might say. The way you structure the system has a feedback effect on how the system then proceeds, right? So, I that was kind of put in there because again, I feel like a lot of this is very much framed as you guys fight over these. You guys with your dumb scarcity mindset fight over distribution, redistribution, clawing at the same piece of the pie. We're going to focus on the future, growth, innovation, new stuff, whatever, and not focus so much on that. And then, okay, well, if you have this vast inequality and this is the way your system runs, what you're going to be doing is minting a bunch of these new billionaires. And we just did that. And he's kind of like destroying everything. So you do need to focus on how this thing's actually going to work distributionally. And if you're just like take insanely unequal hyper-capitalism and just feed it with technology subsidies, that still may end up destroying itself because, it generates these, monster figures who have so much unchecked power.
Here's in the book they do write about Elon Musk, and I have this quote here. The authors write, Musk has become a lightning rod in debates over whether technological progress comes from public policy or private ingenuity. But he is a walking advertisement for what public will and private genius can unlock when they work together. Like he's a walking advertisement.
Yes.
I mean, I agree with that.
Let's put his face on our fucking book. This is what we want right here.
Yeah. But it's just like, if he's a walking advertisement for what public will and private genius can unlock when they work together, what are they thinking of? What are some examples of Elon Musk genius getting us closer to this abundance future?
Yeah, well, this goes to sort of what do you make of a CEO? The most sort of extreme Elon fanboys seem to believe that he like invented batteries and rockets like personally in some kind of lab, as opposed to just presiding over a company where other people did those things. And presiding even is like a strong word. I mean, ostensibly he's running 3 companies and the government, right? Like, what does he do? I mean, there's no way he's doing these things. So, but yeah, I guess so that just gets, I guess, more to the question of he was the CEO of these companies, which I believe preceded him anyways. He just bought into them at a certain time. Maybe he's a good manager. I don't know. It's kind of hard to believe based on just his public figure, but yeah.
Based on Tesla's stock price, I would say it would be another indication.
Is he a management genius? It seems unlikely, but yeah. So,
all right, I'd like to read probably my other favorite passage from this book. I'm just going to read this here. Quote: "Invention, the act of solving problems by bringing new products, systems, and ideas into existence, is the basis of human progress. Consider a thought experiment. The average lifespan of an American today is about 80 years and declining, I should mention. The world of 2025 is therefore just 3 modern lifetimes away from the world of 1785. 3 80-year-olds holding hands across time. To travel back 3 lifetimes to the 1780s is to enter a world without a car, toilet paper, or large-scale production of soap. In the realm of food, it is a world before can openers, pasteurization, or modern refrigeration. In medicine, it is a world without antibiotics, anesthesia, or a single vaccine. What principally distinguishes the past from the present is not biology nor psychology, but rather technology. If the world has changed, it is because we have changed the world." That is the quality of the writing here. But like the point being is like, yeah, like the world we live in is different from the past, and it's different thanks to things like cars and electricity.
Yeah, technology is important. Got it.
But like, certainly like there are some drawbacks to living in 2025 as well. I mean, yeah, the life expectancy is longer. That's good. And like, we can think of like the ease, comfort, and safety of the world we live in now as thanks technology. But like, there are still like intractable, horrible problems that exist and are getting worse every day.
Yeah, it reminds me of the early socialists when they were writing. They would write stuff like that, which was always really fun to read. They would say, "Look, we were able to figure out how the planets revolved around the sun, and we've learned all this stuff about science and gravity and whatever." And then from there, they would pivot to saying, And if we can solve all that, learn all of that, if we can, I guess we'd say now, put a man on the moon, we absolutely can wipe out poverty. Oh my God, that's so easy by comparison. And, that was sort of the hopeful kind of pitch for why, yeah, we can solve all these problems. And then we just don't. And so it's funny, right? It's like, okay, great. Yeah, wow, we really you're right. Like, we can revolutionize really radical things in society. We can make it to where everyone has a car. We can build planes and fly. And then yet there's people right down the street just living under a bridge. And we can't resolve that. And there's kids who are hungry and we can't give them food. We fight over whether or not we can even give them food in school. So there are limits, I guess, to human ingenuity. And it seems like you should attend to those things instead of just kind of thinking, well, I'll wave my hand and the technology will get so good that we don't
especially
need
because
to worry
these
about
problems are not we're not waiting for a technological solution to school lunches, right? We're not waiting for a technological solution to the problem of lack of health insurance, right? We don't need some new revolution in physics or quantum mechanics to achieve these things. But then it just gets back to the problem of the distribution of wealth and resources and power in our society.
Right. You can create a new future, but how that future is distributed is a whole separate question. And the one doesn't resolve the other. I mean, that's definitely what we've witnessed over time here. One does not fix the other, and you really shouldn't say, well, we need to maybe refocus on technology and not worry so much about these distributional questions, because new technology that is not channeled in the right way leads to Musk on the one end and crushing poverty on the other.
And what about the world outside of the America of 2050? Where all the lithium is being mined to produce all of these electric cars and scooters. Is the global supply chain and the resources that will power this new abundant future, is that addressed anywhere in the book? Because I didn't find it.
No, there's no question of sort of the third world issues. Malcolm Harris actually raised this in his piece in Baffler. I think they were using some, in response to their example of the automobile. He was saying, well, yes, everyone in the United States got an automobile, but the rubber was coming from slaves in South America or something. So yeah, I don't know, how they intend to generate global justice through this. I mean, they can't even resolve the question of justice inside the United States itself and how it's going to be distributed well. I can't imagine how they're going to answer the question of distributing all these new fancy things to, Africa or South America.
So, I mean, as a longtime observer of Ezra Klein, and I really have to give him credit for being an OG in the digital opinion and entertainment complex. I mean, he gets paid coming and going. But what I'm interested in is not just this book is it's a rollout for, like I said, a rebranding of the Democratic Party and hopefully a new, more optimistic politics that will sort of shepherd back into the coalition, billionaires and people who are maybe made a little uneasy by radical policies like Medicare for all. But I'm just wondering, what have you seen so far of how is this going to translate into a winning political message? How do they conceive of the abundance agenda being the centerpiece of a 2028 Democratic presidential run? What's the message going to be here? Build more things?
Build more things. Yeah, we're going to be the party that builds and creates the future. I guess if you keep it at that level of abstraction, I do think they need to rewrite the first part. They shouldn't have a politician out talking about cellular meat and stuff like that. But something like that, I guess you're gonna have an Obama-like figure telling a soaring story about this beautiful future we're all gonna work towards together, and the specific policies is you're probably just not gonna be able to talk about those that much because they're just so narrow and hard to, we're gonna make permitting faster for building. That's not something you throw out on the stump. Exactly in the same way that you can, like Bernie did, and say, we're going to give everyone health care. You can't, that's not so the mechanics of how they build this beautiful future are seemingly hard to sell because they're so technocratic and red tape and bureaucracy focused. But I guess they hope that as long as they can kind of paper those over with these beautiful futuristic visions, that maybe you can just kind of throw that at people.
Now, when it comes to the housing part of this agenda,
it should be noted that like a lot of what is in like the abundance policies prescriptions were essentially kind of part of Bernie 2020's housing policy about like, like it literally was like cutting red tape to make it easier to build, multi-story residential units where they otherwise would be, blocked by local concerns and NIMBYism. But like, I saw Matt Iglesias the other day saying like, yeah, Bernie has some good ideas, but he screws it up with like rent control. And here in New York City, Zoran Mamdani is running for mayor right now, and one of the elements of his platform is a freeze on rent. I would just like to ask you, Matt, like broadly, because like you follow this stuff closer than I do. How what is the argument about why it's bad to lower rent or like to freeze rent or that like landlords make too much? I mean, like, because like the opposition to this seems to be like landlords should have the right to make as much money as possible charging rent, and like that the market is the rational force for determining how much a unit can be rented per month in like a major American city. Like, what is the argument against like lowering rent by fiat or just like freezing it?
Yeah, I mean, the classic argument is when you lower the rent that people can charge, that's going to make developers less willing to create more units because the return on creating more units will go down. There's a couple problems with that in practice, which is one, rent control typically only applies to existing buildings. So they'll say buildings built before such and such date will be subject to this rule and not new buildings. And then two, and this gets a little bit muddled because of their other proposals, but the quantity of housing that's being built is being driven by the planning decisions. It's not like we don't have enough developers who want to build things. It's that, what they can build is circumscribed by all these rules. That's their whole point. So, the classical case against it kind of falls apart. I guess you can kind of start moving into other points about maybe it's distributionally unfair. It's kind of like random lottery. If you happen to get into a rent control unit, then you win the lottery, and if you don't, then you don't. There's cheating that goes on. Obviously, people will get a rent control unit and then sublet it out to someone at a market price. I don't know. There's stuff like that, but the main point, which is that it's going to reduce the quantity of housing supplied, runs up against their own argument, which is that the quantities of housing supplied is already hugely capped by zoning and everything else.
In sort of trying to take on the abundance agenda as a whole, like, do you think that there is anything worthwhile, like in this book that is like worthy of praise or rather than criticism?
Yeah, I mean, the proposals themselves, I think I said in my review, it would be fine to just put that in a Project 2029 style document, like I think the Project 2025 was like 500 pages or something. If you wanted to put 20 pages in there where you got a subject matter expert for each one of these to say, okay, so for transmission lines, we need to relax law A, B, and C in order to make the permitting process go this and this bit faster. That all seems fine. That's all well and good. They're just kind of small bore technocratic fixes that could have really significant impacts and may be very necessary for us to, generate enough clean energy for the country and all that. Like it's all well and good. I think the problem just is when they go beyond, like, here's a list of technocratic fixes that I think will increase efficiency and output and growth and go into this real grandiose vision while also saying that maybe we need to displace other focuses that people have historically had on the left and really go in hard on this. I think that when they step out of that and go to that higher level, that's where I think things really fall apart.
Matt, if you were to be put in charge of, for instance, like a Project 2029, or let's say like a socialist-led Department of Government Efficiency, what would be the abundance agenda that you think would go the longest way to getting us towards that utopian future described in the opening passages of Abundance?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, I think an interesting question is just what is your theory of how innovation and technology comes about? Before this book, or I guess we could say even now, the right really emphasizes like incentives, right? If we increase the payoff to innovative behavior, more people will go out and innovate. And that always seemed very crazy to me and doesn't seem to like map with our understanding of a lot of inventions, which seem to kind of come out of nowhere. These guys are saying, oh, you just need to reduce permitting and bottlenecks, and then we'll get a lot more innovation. And, like I said, bet more money on kind of wacky scientists and stuff. To me, it seems like it kind of comes randomly almost. A lot of it just kind of comes out of nowhere. People who just kind of get interested in it. I don't know, give some money to like every autistic person, just give them some money and like let them cook for a while. That seems to be where a lot of this stuff comes from. There are other arguments people make that I think are kind of interesting, right? It seems like a lot of our smartest people, if you will, talented people who might be more innovative and come up with stuff, they kind of get shunted off into finance and real estate because that's where they can do quantitative hedge fund trading and make millions and millions of dollars. So there seems to be a lot of misallocation of talent that comes from capitalist inequality and what kinds of sectors get big payoffs and what kind of sectors don't. So I guess I have a much more of a like, it's hard to like force innovation. It kind of comes as it comes, people sort of come up with things and hopefully you can capture it and implement it. But it's going to be hard to like systematically just like push the innovation button.
And what are the abundocrats? Like, how do they feel about the competing message that like, I think they're kind of scoring off with right now in the big crowds that Bernie Sanders and like AOC are turning out at the moment? And like, leave criticisms of them aside for a second. Like, what is their response to the fact that like their agenda has a book, but like the politics that they're essentially making a case against seem to have all the energy in the Democratic field right now?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I saw the numbers that 30,000 people came to watch Bernie Sanders and AOC. It's kind of crazy. You can't get me to one of those rallies, so I don't even know like who's out there. I did see Matt Iglesias was suggesting that it's kind of just like diehard Bernie people. Like, he's got a big list and they're just real kind of fanatical. And so they'll come out.
If he could get 50 of his diehard fans in a room together, that would be a huge achievement.
It was funny though, because then Dave Weigel had a counter he's out actually reporting at these things. And he was saying that, based on the numbers they had, that the majority of people at these big rallies were not people that were on the Bernie or AOC email lists or any, any other connection.
If you just look at the photos of the rally, most of the people have white hair. Most of them seem fairly elderly. So like just based on that demographic, I would assume they're not being drawn from like the DSA well primarily.
The thing that I've gotten from people who have gone to them, my friend went to the one in Colorado that had 30,000 people, is that a lot of the people there are they're desperate for to be under some like locus of energy for like anti-Trump, anti-Elon stuff. And this is the only thing that seems to have any actual authenticity and energy. I did see Iglesias, his other argument for, why no one should even care about this was that Bernie has high name recognition. So like, presumably, Hakeem Jeffries could do this.
No, that is a good point, but it does kind of cut against, and then Weigel was saying this as well. It's just a lot of these people never voted for Bernie or obviously AOC, and they're just out. It's kind of like anti-Trump stuff, and these guys are capturing the energy. I guess in 2016, they would have been reading about Mueller and getting into like Russiagate and what were those twins? Those weird.
Oh, the Krasensteins.
Yeah, they would have been giving money to those guys, and instead they have to go to a Bernie rally.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, like it seems like one of the reasons that people are turning out for these huge rallies is like because like what they're seeing from the party that they want to support is that they have no idea what they're doing, and that they're like telegraphing that they're just going to like roll over for Donald Trump and Elon Musk. But I like the Fight the Oligarchy tour, it identifies a culprit. It assigns blame to, and not just it assigns blame, it assigns blame to particularly two figures that people loathe, that people hate, and can see written on their faces them just vandalizing and fucking over like everything about people, about our government and our public life in this country. But it seems hard to like as a political message to replace oligarch tech billionaires and Nazis like Elon Musk with the homeowners association of a neighborhood that doesn't want, multi-level housing built in it. That's bad. Don't get me wrong. But like, it doesn't, it seems like the scale is off here for a national political message.
Yeah, yeah, and the other thing about at making it a national thing is, and some of the reviewers have pointed this out, they're really kind of talking about mostly a few cities in like California and New York, New York City, but essentially, they're really obsessed with these kind of New York State and California State and how badly that they've governed those states. And they even say in the book, like, this is not really true of, Texas and Kentucky and Ohio. Like a lot of the rest of the country don't have these problems. So if that's the case, how would it become the locus of liberalism across America? Maybe it's a thing for, Gavin Newsom to take up. Well, I guess he's running for president, but, maybe it's something for a state party in California, New York, or a local city council in those states. But how is it a national agenda where when you have lots of parts of the country where there's no zoning and housing's fine and people build stuff whenever,
I don't know. Like, I just, best of luck to the abundocrats, I suppose. I mean, I don't have much more on this. I got to be honest with you. I really did not want to talk about abundance because it seems to me just about like the least important thing possible considering what's going on in the world right now. But the fact of the matter is you're gonna be hearing about this a lot more because
I tried to skip it.
Yeah, because it just seems to me it's just like, oh, surprise, surprise. The Democrats, we need a bold new message. What is it going to be? We're gonna more neoliberalism, essentially. Just as long as it's not focused on like the welfare state or redistribution of wealth or removing the power and rights of the billionaires that are destroying this country and the world at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they say it very specifically in the book. They say, look, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, they both were popular for the same reason, which was people just feel like they can't achieve the life they want to achieve in this system. And both of them were able to take advantage of that scarcity mindset and focus on zero-sum redistribution about how other people are taking from you. And we're going to cut through that. We've got a new way between socialist politics, the socialist left, and the populist authoritarian right. A new way, a third way, potentially.
Yes, a third way. I'm just going to read the concluding paragraph here. Abundance contains within it a bigness that benefits the American project. Abundance contains within it a bigness, a noble spirit embiggens even the least abundant man. He says here, it is the promise not just of more, but of more of what matters. It is a commitment to the endless work of institutional revival. It is recognition that technology is the heart of progress and has always been. It is a determination to align our collective genius with the needs of both the planet and each other. Abundance is liberalism, yes. But more than that, it is a liberalism that builds.
There you go.
There you go. Put that on a bumper sticker. All right. I just
that builds.
Abundance contains within it a bigness. Yeah. So hopefully that'll be the last I ever have to think about abundance, but probably that's not going to be the case. I don't have much more here. Matt Brunig, thank you so much for reading Abundance and talking to us about it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Signing off for today, Chris.